Chels' mic is muted. Good. Let me get my... yeah, it's still loaded. And then out.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean when I'm talking about time and death and futility. There are broader ideas at work, mainly what is owed between us as a society for our mutual illusions. Our 14 straight hours of staring at DBs. These are the things you think of. You ever done that? To realize that all your life, not all your love, all your hate, all your memory, all your pain, it was all the same thing. It was all the same dream, a dream that you had inside a locked room. A dream about being a person.
You call them devil's nest. Catch devil before it gets too close, you put them around your bed. Some folk call them bird traps. But I call them devil's nests. That's right. Something to keep the kids busy during the day. Good evening, folks. I'm here. I'm not concerned about the volume levels. I'm not concerned about the lighting. I'm not concerned about any possible hot mics that may or may not have been on a little bit earlier. I'm concerned about one thing. One thing tonight. Really, one thing. I'm concerned about a lot of things, and I'll talk about them. We'll talk about them. I like that we talk about stuff, and it's not me talking about stuff. But one thing that I'm very concerned about right now is this. 4 hours, 25 minutes, 23 seconds. If you all don't mind, I'm just gonna leave it on the screen until that time elapses. I think that'll be entertaining enough. Probably be just as entertaining as any ideas that I have for doing stuff this evening. Hi. Let's say hi to everybody. Let's say hello. Kick this off right. Elliot's here. Elliot, you don't ruin the chat. You're wonderful. KJ's here. Also wonderful. Maddie is here. Maddie was on the waiting list to be interviewed, spoken with. Sounds so pretentious. She was going to do that thing where like the screen splits, and I ran out of time last time. I promised her that next time we could do that. So Maddie, if you're up for it, we'll do that a little bit later. Possibly racist name IKEA here. But I will just say Rovali IKEA. Hi, I don't recognize you. Except for the bad CGI job. Looks like that was done on you. Hey, Lexi, how are you doing? Let's see, who else we got? Pavi, Nacht, Hickson, howdy. Freezing your ass off, yeah. Well, I'm sure it's much colder where you are than where it is where I am, but not having a lot of fun with the weather lately. Michael, hello. Good buddy, Michael. Q. This is really quite deep. It's either quite deep or like super sophomoric. I'm gonna choose to believe that it's quite deep. Butterfly composer. Oh, Court. When is Court good? I'd like to hear more about what you're saying. What you're talking about here. I don't have a Poe break tonight. I got a different kind of break planned. Which hopefully y'all will like. Chels, glad you're up. Sorry that it is, I know it's making it difficult for you, but look, I'm going to be up real late tonight. So originally, I'm going to continue saying, originally I had planned, this is how exciting my life is. I had sort of orchestrated my time off for the remainder. First, I'm sorry, I got to do this. Or I don't get paid. My teeth don't maintain their lovely mahogany-ish luster. I had planned my time off, some of it this year, around Cyberpunk coming out. Because let me take you back to 12, 13-year-old Phoenician sailor sitting in his room in an area of Miami, checkbox, called Coconut Grove. Actually, no, at that time it was Coral Gables. Quite ritzy. Go ahead and Google it if you like. Sitting in my room, holding a copy of William Gibson's Neuromancer. Wishing that I were as cool as Case, not Chase. Conflating Case from Neuromancer with Chase from House. I definitely don't want to be as cool as Chase. I'd like to look like Chase, but I don't want to kill every patient I diagnose. So picture me in a twin bed, tucked into the corner of a room in a overpriced house in an overpriced neighborhood. A house that was so expensive that after the death of my father, we had to move out because we could not afford the property tax. The property tax was more than my mother could make going back to her job as a nurse after the death of my father. The house was paid for. We could not afford the property tax. It's amazing to me. So I was, curled up in a corner, reading about Case, reading about at the time he had 2 megabytes of hot RAM. 2 megabytes. William Gibson was a visioneer, was a pioneering visionary, and Disney may come after me for using that phrase. They've copyrighted all the ears, adding ear to anything. Which I didn't actually think about Mickey Mouse ears. I was thinking about Imagineers, obviously. He was so visionary, right? He coined the term cyberpunk. Okay. He didn't coin the term the Matrix, but in the context of what he implied it to be, and the Wachowski sisters took his idea of the Matrix from Neuromancer. So yeah, imagine me, if you will, pre-pubescent or early pubescence or confused, stacks of Coke cans in my room, no joke, that attracted roaches. That's how, give you an idea of like pewter figurines, Dungeons and Dragons figurines, painstakingly painted, but didn't have all of the guidance that one has now about how you can prime, and you start by basically painting the figure mostly black and then building on the lighter colors. So the paint jobs were nowhere near what people do today, but they were cute and quaint. Had model planes, the smell of what was it called? Liquid cement, model airplane glue. Used to go fishing, had a fish hook get caught in my comforter once, and then hooked my own foot between the toes. Possibly the most painful, or one of the most painful experiences of my life. I was very young, so it's also possible that I am exaggerating how painful that experience was. But reading Neuromancer, reading Snow Crash, a year or two later, going downtown when it was 3 a.m. and abandoned, and everything looked like this kind of dystopian future that we saw in movies like Miracle Mile and the Night of the Comet, Escape from New York. All right. So my interest in the cyberpunk genre was such that at the age of 16 or 17, I was seriously considering my first and only tattoo, which would have been, if I had gone through with it, a barcode on the back of my neck. Which, at the time, this is late 80s, would have been quite edgy. And 10 years after, until now, or until I got it covered up, would have been the embarrassment of my being, the thing I was most embarrassed of. And probably how close I came to doing that might have modeled why I never got a tattoo. I've never gotten a tattoo. And I'm lucky that I don't, because like I said, I would have things like, I would have Megadeth tattoos. I would have, and whatever, maybe that's not, it's not so embarrassing. I would have a lot of embarrassing tattoos. My point, which I have wandered far from my point, but my point is I have been into the cyberpunk genre for a long time. Played the Neuromancer game on the Apple IIc, I believe it was. was always into that. Loved The Matrix. Although The Matrix for me will be forever marred by my viewing experience of it in the theater in Orlando, 1999. I don't know if you can see here. Let's see if we can zoom in on this. It's a cut. What you're seeing there is a cut it's really hard to see, but it's like a moon-shaped cut. And as I move my finger, the tendon, there's a bunch of scar tissue there because my tendons were severed. And because of that, I can't hyperextend these fingers, which destroyed it's always nice to have an excuse as to why something didn't happen. I was studying classical guitar, and the inability to hyperextend these two fingers. Can't do that. See, you can do it there fine. There. Can't do it because the tendons were cut when I was younger and reattached. But when they were reattached, a bunch of scar tissue there, and I got I guess it was like, it was a bump filled with what did not feel like liquid to me. It felt like very hard. I thought it was a growth. I thought it was like some kind of slow growing scar tissue, probably benign, but would eventually need to take care of it. When I was watching the first Matrix in a movie theater, like I said, in Orlando, I remember getting up or sitting down and just kind of slapping my arm down against the rest and just feeling something strange, and then grabbing my wrist. And this thing, which was, about that big, it was visible, certainly, when you looked at my wrist, was gone. Now, obviously, in retrospect, everybody's like, yeah, it was fluid, and you popped it. Me, at the time, I felt it was gone, and I immediately went like this, trying to find where it moved to. Paranoid about it having been somehow knocked loose. Of course, that wasn't the case. And when you have scar tissue like I do now, occasionally they come back. And I have been to doctors who say, well, we can drain it for you, or you can hit it with a book. I have, in the times that it's come back, I have ended up hitting it with a book. So I've been into cyberpunk, the general genre, for a long time. And I really enjoyed The Witcher. I know a lot of people did not. So I've been looking forward to this game for a long time, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with all of you, if you're interested in having it shared with you. So I orchestrated some of my time off around it. This was it. I was supposed to have tomorrow off from work, the rest of the week, a little bit of next week, and then Christmas week, right? Because I'm so integrally important to the operation of my artificial intelligence job. Basically, there were a couple of meetings that ended up getting scheduled for the days that I was taking off that I really felt I needed to be there for. So unfortunately, I have to go to work tomorrow. But I am taking off Friday. So my intent is to spend the majority of the weekend streaming Cyberpunk 2077, in spite of some of the I don't want to say morally reprehensible, morally questionable things that CD Projekt Red has done lately, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That was a really long tangent. I was trying to say hi to everybody. Sorry if I lost a bunch of people. I'm going to have to go quick catch up. I'm not sure which bit you're referring to there, Q. Or if it was even me. Like, I don't even know. Like, when people are talking about stuff, are they talking about something I said? Or are they talking about something in chat? I don't know. Oh, that's kind, Noctexan. And guaranteed to get you screen time, if that's something you care about. By the way, if you're hanging out, watching, don't forget to slam that subscribe button. Hello, Xava. Hello, Lady Naravar. Roman Check 75. Hello. So I find, right, I still think True Detective, the first season of True Detective, is the best buddy cop movie of the last decade. I remember when it was first announced. I'm a sucker for noir, right? But when it was first announced, I remember thinking, why on earth would you cast Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in the same franchise as co-leads? They're like practically the same person. Right? I was worried about, like in my head, I identify them as competing for the same roles. Certainly not the diametrically opposed characters that they were in the first season of True Detective. And it wasn't that there was anything particularly new about True Detective in and of itself, although I will say that Casey Fukunaga's direction was beautiful and amazing, so much so that I forced myself to watch Maniac and Beasts of No Nation a few times. The name of this particular episode, The Pattern is the Pattern, comes from Maniac, which is a Casey Fukunaga directed show on Netflix, which is not as good as it should have been. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, but it's still, I think, worth watching. Okay, so yeah, you're making fun of the bird trap. It was a device in True Detective season 1. Hello, Leah. It's good to see you. I need a bowl of chicken and dumplings. I don't know if that's a reference to my weight or not. I've been gaining weight. Like I've been eating too much. I have only one thing. There's only one thing to fear, and that is all of the things. Hello, Warp Raven. Jason and Michelle, I just answered your question. Okay. Unfortunately, PlayStation 4, so it will be jittery. Okay, I'm way behind, so I'm going to try and catch up a little bit here. Sorry. Hello, Ramona. Hello, sorry if I'm... Hello, Becca is here. Gotta catch up, or I will never catch up. Because I will go off on all kinds of... But yeah. Yeah. Hot RAM. That's what it was in the book Neuromancer. He had stolen 2 megabytes of RAM. Yeah. Proudly. Hello, Jessica. Well, I guess it's not too soon to be wrapping Christmas presents. Agreed. If there is anyone here who has not seen Night of the Comet, or Miracle Mile for that matter. Miracle Mile is an interesting movie in that it masquerades as something it is not. So if you see a trailer for it, I'm talking about Miracle. There's probably more than one movie called Miracle Mile. I'm talking about Miracle Mile starring Anthony Edwards from ER fame. Not House, ER. There is a little connection there. Yes, I want to actually talk about this a little bit, Michael, because I feel like they dropped the ball on it. Oh, I made a joke. Dropping the balls. What happened to my hand, I probably have told this story already, so I'll tell it really quick. I lived in a house that had glass doorknobs and it had an apartment above the garage that we used as a fort. The glass doorknob going into the apartment above the garage was shattered. And one day I was with some friends who, as a joke, had locked me out. And I was pounding on the door saying, "Let me in." And I did not realize it, but the door, they had already unlocked the door and they were trying to open it, but it had jammed. So they were like trying to knock it to open it. But I didn't know that. I was standing there like being like, "Hey, let me in." And so finally, when the door flew open with great force, the broken doorknob grabbed my wrist, slammed it against the wall. And I remember grabbing my wrist thusly and turning to the person who it was, and like I said, at this point in my life, I've lived a fairly privileged life. And the person who it was the son of the president of the University of Miami at the time. And I said to him, and I'm going to say his first name. This was his actual first name, Thaddeus. "What the hell did you do that for, Thaddeus?" Right? Or something like that. And everybody was just like staring at me when this was going on. And I then looked down and I saw that there was blood squirting between my finger gaps. So the bone was chipped. It looked like an open mouth. It was pretty gross. And again, I'm going off on a new kind of Bible bashing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to fill time here. Look at this. I've already been a half hour, and I haven't even gone through just the sort of. Yeah, I already answered this, Jason Michelle. Unfortunately. Okay, we're almost caught up. Do I have other cringe stories about my hands? What other cringe stories do I have about my hands? Fucking Thaddeus, man. He had a crush on my sister. Here's the story I got from that was I went to the hospital and apparently Thaddeus asked my mom if it was okay if he still spent the night, even though I wasn't there. Because he had a crush on my sister. Ginger ale. I haven't decided. I never played the actual Cyberpunk tabletop game. So while I know a bit about it, I don't really know. You know, I know there's I know some vague things about it, but I don't know. I'm gonna be diving into it with just this sort of atavistic knowledge of Cyberpunk in general and not the specifics of It'll be my knowledge of like White Wolf stuff, like Wraith, where you had juicers and stuff like that. I never thought about it, the possibility that it might have been planned. That would be a neat trick if he was able to plan that. I never. What did I never give you? And I skipped Butterfly Composer's court case. Can you post it again? I'm gonna get lost. I gotta stay down here. So one of the things that Cyberpunk 2077, I wasn't talking about the movie, Becca. I was talking about the White Wolf pen and paper game. But maybe they made a movie out of that. I didn't know it, if that's true. I don't know if this is a Skyrim joke or not, Noctaxon. Is that a Skyrim joke? It's a bit dark. Butterfly Composer. I want to hear it. Let's hear it. But so Cyberpunk 2077 got a lot of like originally great press for not forcing your biological sex to determine your gender. So you could, for instance, have a penis and be female. But then they kind of went and screwed it up by doing stuff like this, right? Which is, to me, well, and to I think a lot of trans people, this is objectifying, very much objectifying the whole the chick with a dick fetish, and it also doesn't let you choose your voice. So if you choose to be biologically male, even if you can be biologically male, have a vagina, but you will have a male voice. That seems to me like a really easy thing, right? It's not like they had to record different levels of testosterone in your voice, ranging from, very, very feminine to the uber masculine voice that you hear dripping into your ears now. So, like, I feel like they got points for trying, and then they just blew it by doing stuff like this, Yeah. Holy shit, Butterfly Composer. Wait, were you on a jury? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, let me get this off the screen. And so that, and so somebody who was in chat here occasionally, Carolyn Petit, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her last name or not, wrote the review for Polygon for Cyberpunk 2077. And I take her opinion very carefully, or I take her opinion very seriously. And she didn't have like the greatest things to say about it. So my expectations have been a bit tempered, but it's gonna have to fuck up a lot to lose me. It really is. Yeah, this is what it seems like. This is what it seems like. So, Butterfly Composer, can you tell me more about that, though? Ah, you were observing. Interesting. So I will be playing the game. I'm probably going to start tonight. I doubt I'll stream tonight, but whatever I do tonight will be just to get a little familiar with it, and I'll restart when I start the stream. My intent is to do what I did with The Last of Us 2 with Cyberpunk 2077. That is to play it, the main storyline, from start to finish. I won't necessarily, I'm not going to be a completionist about it. And I want to have fun. So if it stops being fun, that's like that's my caveat, is when it stops being fun. Although I will certainly plow through grindy parts if it gets past a certain point and it's just not fun. I'm probably not going to force myself through 100 hours of it. And I may, if it's a really long game, I'm probably going to play it also while not streaming it, and do like sum ups of it or what have you. But that's my plan, is basically Friday stream and play for the majority of the day, taking breaks, coming back, doing it. I can't give you a schedule. I'm just going to play it as much as I can take, basically. And, some of Saturday and Sunday and Monday. Oh, Lady Nerevar, did not know this. Oh, okay, we're getting the play-by-play here on this court case. There's a guy from Liverpool. That means he talks like this, right? That's a Liverpudlian accent, isn't it? The Paul McCartney, right? So he's got a cannabis farm. 55,000 pounds worth of cannabis. Ha, Jessica. Well, it might get me to the ability to turn it on. Like, I'm still not there on this channel. Like, you have to reach X number of viewing hours before you even have the option. What's my go-to food while gaming? That's a good question. I don't really think it's a good question. It's a question. I'm not going to judge the merit of the question. Food. I don't have one. Like, it's not like I will play and I generally won't eat when I'm gaming. And then I will stop and I will eat. And then I will come back the next day or something like that. Yeah, well, Lady Nerevar, it's not like inducing seizures is like a new thing, right? Like there's not a new phenomenon that, and it's not like it hasn't been a problem on television shows or in movies before. So I'm surprised. But the other thing they did was they promised no crunch. They made a big to-do about how they weren't going to fall back on that. The old bugaboo of forcing their developers through either direct or by peer pressure means to be in the office 80 hours a week or more, or even sleeping in the office. And yet it turns out they did it anyway. So they had to get it out for Christmas. I think that's what the deal is there, right? All right, next part. Get sent down for 18 months. 18 months for $55,000 worth of an illegal substance. As he's about to be released, he starts a claim for asylum. Okay. Elderflower. What's jazz cabbage? I don't get it. I don't know what jazz cabbage is. Here's the thing about crunch. You either have to have a policy against it or it just happens. Like, there's no end in sight for crunch except for Gold Master. And nowadays, with games being routinely patched as they are, even going to Gold Master is not the end, right? Then you're crunching to try and, say, remove the part that causes epileptic seizures. And, that part should be, but that can apply to anything. Oh, sorry. See, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. All right, sorry. Okay. Turns out this guy's from Vietnam. He was human trafficked to Liverpool and then threatened with death if he didn't tend to this cannabis farm. That is so bizarre because even just like because cannabis, right? Like, I could understand if it were something more nefarious, if you had a Philip K. Dick sort of substance D situation. You had New Path. You had people tending these flowers. Well, Joe, this is a pretty Joe Staples, by the way. Hi. This is a fascinating question because a lot of people crunch when there aren't boundaries because they no longer have this sort of boundary of like, I'm here at work, so I'm working. And when I leave, I'm done. When I leave and I go home, the boundary couldn't be more fixed. And unless I'm like called back for an emergency or whatever it is, when I'm at work, I'm working. And when I'm not at work, I'm not working. Now, for a lot of people, that boundary's gone. So it can be easy, especially in an industry like the game industry, which is sort of nefarious and known for using its cachet with younger people to sort of not draconianly enforce, but it's actually worse than that. It could, because it's so insidious, just sort of make you feel like you're never doing enough, right? And if you're working from home, then what you're going to do is you're going to start like never really checking out. Like, you might only just partially check out or check out to eat and then come back and work. And then maybe check out to watch a movie, but then come back and work. And if you're stuck with this sort of fear, this latent fear, this imposter syndrome, or this fear which is nurtured in that industry of there being 50 people who would kill you to take your place, people who are younger, who you wouldn't have to pay as much, and they wouldn't care about things like health insurance. So that's sort of it's not a carrot. It's just a stick, right? It's just there's no more carrot. It's just stick. So the fact that now a lot of these places are remote, I think can make it worse. Like you might think like, oh, well, it makes it a little better because, you get to be at home. But man, I would think could turn you into, I feel like a prisoner. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't feel like, I don't know what a prisoner feels like, but I feel like I am going pretty stir crazy. And I also feel like I don't know where work stops and where it starts. And I'm not even in a situation where crunch is a thing. So I can only imagine. Okay, well, butterfly, it gets worse. It gets worse. So the guy was arrested. He had been human trafficked, brought over to Liverpool to work a cannabis farm. I'm not somebody anyone should ask about diet. I'm horrible. Yeah. Yeah, people have varying opinions on this. A lot of this, I think, depends on who you are as a person, what your personality is like, how you're able to like establish these boundaries, how secure you are with the work that you're doing. And if you do work that is more easily quantifiable as done, or it's just like the type of work that's never done, it's just you're getting to a point where you're saying it's done, but it's never done. And a game is exactly like that. Like you could work on a game forever. It's just somebody arbitrarily saying, well, we're only funding it this much and it has to be released for the holiday season. So this is where it ends. And so you're going to work 80-hour weeks for the last 2 or 3 months. If it's easy to say like it's bad planning to blame the producers, but really I think what it comes down to in a lot of these cases is expectations and some of this, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of crap for saying this. If gamers could unionize, this would be far less of a problem. I'm sorry, if game developers could unionize, this would be far less of a problem because you do have people who all they want to do is spend all of their waking hours making games. And that applies for any profession, right? Like you have people who set these examples of this is all I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. I think it's more prevalent in games. It's easier to get obsessed and to just be like, I am going to work on this 16 hours a day. Then I'll go to sleep. And when I wake up, I'm going to start working on it immediately again. And when you have other, different types of people who then maybe don't feel the same way and are being held to the similar standard. There's another update above here, butterfly. Okay. He's locked in this farm and sexually abused by his captors. The police free him, arrest him, and he gets put in prison, serves his sentence, gets on the fast track for asylum. Did the police arrest him to keep him safe? I am confused. Becca, I'm with you. Yeah. Like you boundaries, whether they're literal, right? Or you have the fortitude, or it's not, you're stronger if you can do it. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm really bad at it. I feel guilty all the time. And when I worked in the games industry, it was worse. I felt guilty all the time. I knew that any game I was working on could be better if I just put in a little more time. That is the dilemma, that is the sword of Damocles hanging over every game developer or any worker who works in a situation where done is an arbitrary term. In the short term, it is. In the short term, it gives you what you need. And theoretically, if, especially like the gaming industry is so romanticized that I've talked about this before, but almost every major college in America right now, North America, has like a game design program of some sort, which I think is fine as part of like a liberal arts education, to get some understanding into how games are made, because really what you're looking at there is how simulations are made. And that gives you some insight into artificial intelligence. One of the reasons I was able to get into artificial intelligence having a gaming background is because they overlap. There's some skill set there that overlaps when you're making when you're constructing the logic for a non-player character's brain. You're trying to emulate some sort of appearance of life, right? But because gaming is so romanticized, and because there are so many of these universities churning out people who I really believe they feel like when I graduate, I'm going to make a game and get rich, or I'm going to join Ubisoft or Electronic Arts. And there's not that many game developers in North America, and not that many major game developers in North America, and there's thousands of people who want to do it. So, if you have this never-ending pool of talent that you can just churn through, and then, work Group A 80 hours a week until they quit in frustration, and then you just bring on Group B, and then you'll eventually, maybe find the unicorns in each of those groups who will continue to work 80 hours a week until they die. I've not forgotten you, Maddie. Actually, yes, Maddie, let's, I want to finish. Okay, so things are going better. He's got a legal team, and then he vanishes, nowhere to be found. No way, he was recaptured by the traffickers. Sorry, these in-ear monitors get a little uncomfortable after a while. So wait, he got recaptured, so he's back probably in worse conditions than he was before? Well, I don't want to destroy anyone's dream. And I think like independent game developers, that's great, right? That's just the course of actually completing a game, you will learn so much. And you'll learn skills that are applicable in lots and lots of places, not just the gaming. PG Tips, that's a type of British tea, isn't it? thought. I've heard in BBC broadcasts people talking about PG tips. So Butterfly Composer, this person, he's gone. He's just back. He's back in the clutches of these traffickers. I need an answer for that. Okay, Maddie. Maddie and anyone else, but Maddie has priority here. This is the email address. If you send an email to this address and you have something you want to talk about, just say like, hey, I want to talk about this. And all you need, like, you don't need anything. Like, you could do this from your phone. Apparently, this works with just about anything. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your laptop. You can do it from your desktop. It prefers Chrome, apparently, but I've only had like one case, as you all know from last week when I had Leah on, where we were having problems with it. So don't be afraid to try, right? And please don't be afraid to just come on. I really enjoy meeting you all and the conversations that come from all of this. But Maddie, if you could email this address again. I know you did it once before. But Maddie's got priority. I want to check to be sure I'm... Oh, yeah. So, okay, I'm getting to all this stuff, right? So, Elliot Page announced that he is a transgender man. Elliot Page used to be known as Ellen Page. And he was in Juno. And I understand that, like, can be a little bit confusing. It can even be confusing to know, like, well, if someone who is biologically female is becoming male, are they a transgender man or a transgender woman, right? Like there's lots of things that people don't understand about this stuff, and I don't understand it. But man, I saw, I don't know why I don't know why I watched Ben Shapiro. Like, what was I thinking? This is part of the sickness that is gripping me. Is like, I saw this very clickbaity, obviously, video title where Ben Shapiro is basically just the little smug, fast-talking, shit-eating, motherfucking, disrespectful ass that he is, where he was making fun of Elliot Page. He made, I think, like one decent point in that because the world has gotten to know Elliot Page as Ellen Page, there should probably be like a slight grace period where you would say something, but he didn't say this. So I would think that there would be a slight grace period where it would be okay to say Elliot Page, formerly known as Ellen Page. And then you just move on. But he refused to use like the correct pronouns when he was talking about him. He made some ridiculous statement about like how the headline was indecipherable when clearly it was decipherable, unless he's actually an idiot, which I don't think he's actually an idiot. I just think he's an asshole. But man, he was that really, really got to me. Whispering Wolf, you're talking about the Ben Shapiro? The Ben Shapiro video? Oh, Emil Metal Books. Welcome. And welcome back, Whispering Wolf. But anyway, so, Maddie, I haven't forgotten about you. I've talked about this before too, but in these times of pandemic and quarantine and lockdown, where even like the things that used to be so easy and so simple have become so hard, I'm trying to make an effort to be a conscientious consumer for my own sanity. Helicopter. There's always helicopters. There's always helicopters, and if I'm talking to somebody, I always think it's them. That should be, if there's ever a new bingo card, there should be a blames the low-flying military helicopter on the person he is interviewing. Yeah, there's like 3 of them. The other night they were flying so low the walls of the house were vibrating. Anyway, so I was rewatching Purple Rain for, I don't know, definitely like the 3rd or 4th time this year. Purple Rain is, of course, the movie Prince made that is just it's a showcase of his talent that they unfortunately tried to put some kind of a story on. It's a ridiculous, horrible story that could have been told in 5 minutes with lots of drawn-out shots of Prince on his motorcycle cleansing himself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. But the end of that movie gets me every time. So, and it was very much aped by Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which has a much better story, and it has good music too. Obviously, the music is not objectively, I don't think, as good as Prince's music. But there's tension within a band. There's sort of the leader of the band, Prince and/or Hedwig, repressing one of the individuals in the band, the other individuals in the band, both female. Well, kind of. Well, in Hedwig, it's not. I don't want to. If you haven't seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, great movie with great songs. I wish I had seen it off Broadway in the John Cameron Mitchell run, but I didn't, so that's my loss. But if you haven't seen it, go see it. So at the end, they play out the same way. They play this song, this beautiful song, where they allow their previous repression of the band members that they were repressing to kind of come forth and take the spotlight and be who they are. Now, if you watch the video for Purple Rain, I think this ties back to when we were talking about Death of the Author, because it is so easy. It would be so easy for someone who has never seen that video before or heard that song before, although you probably have, or even if you don't think you have, to watch that video and just laugh at it the whole way through, right? The fashion is horrible, right? It's really, really over dramatic in that 80s way. It keeps cutting. There's tons of smoke everywhere, and everybody has these giant 80s haircuts, and everyone either looks like adamant or, they have the makeup coming up from their eyes like that. Or they have, kind of Ziggy Stardust-ish makeup going on. It's just ripe for ridicule. But if you look at it, and this is where I think you as the viewer and listener need to make an effort to overcome that initial sort of reaction of this is funny. And if you're able to do that, like I find that to be one of the most moving 5 minutes in a musical that I've seen. And the Hedwig, honestly, the Hedwig one, the song for Hedwig is Midnight Radio, similarly moving, but Purple Rain more so. So the reason that I brought that up is because I was going down an internet rabbit hole, as you do, and I read that Prince called Steve Perry, or got in contact with Steve Perry from Journey, to ask them if it was okay for him to put out Purple Rain, because it sounded a lot like a Journey song from a year or two before called Faithfully. And when I read that, I was like, no, like, why would he have done that? Like, that doesn't sound anything, they don't sound alike at all. It's not like Don't Worry, Be Happy and Four Non Blondes' song, What's Going On. Don't worry, be happy. Hey. Those songs are the same. Like, you could sing Don't Worry, Be Happy and I forget the name of the Four Non Blondes song. And I said, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? Don't worry, be happy. Anyway, Maddie's waiting. Okay, but I'll get to Maddie. Does Maddie have to go? Is it okay for you to wait a little bit, Maddie, or do we want to get you first? If I don't finish this story now, I'll forget it. But I don't want to be inconsiderate towards Maddie. Let me just finish this, and then we'll get to Maddie. Okay. So, I think I was dating someone once who we watched a movie that I found very, very moving, and everybody who watches it, Marley Matlin plays a deaf woman. She is deaf, and the name of the movie is Children of a Lesser God, and she plays a deaf woman working at a school for the deaf. William Hurt plays a teacher who is trying to teach deaf people to speak. Marley Matlin does not want to speak. She wants to just use ASL, which, understandable. They end up getting in a relationship. He keeps pushing her to try to speak, and there's a very emotional moment in that movie where she finally breaks down and speaks. But what she says is basically here, this is why I don't speak, because listen to how I sound. And it's just heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking moment. And I remember I was dating somebody and we watched that, and this person I was dating laughed at that moment. And at that moment, I was just kind of like, oh man, that was a giant red flag that you just laughed at what was such a moving moment. I guess I just feel like, people can take the superficialities of what can be a very emotional thing and lose the deep meaning because of these sort of dated trappings. Like the same reason you won't listen to a song because it has saxophone on it, right? The 80s killed a lot of songs with arrangements that don't hold up today. But anyway, so if you have not seen Children of Lesser God, great movie, go see it. If you haven't seen Purple Rain, it's a terrible movie, great music, see it. But my point was, Prince called Steve Perry, or got in touch with Steve Perry and Journey because of the similarity between Faithfully and Purple Rain. I never heard it. I thought they're similar chord progressions, right? So I think that's a beautiful chord. The first chord, same chord, or similar to the Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over. Right. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Anyway, Purple Rain. Right, yeah. That's it. And the Crowded House note. Right? So, it's just... super simple chord progression. Why did he feel like he needed to ask for permission? And I don't think then it dawned on me, it has nothing to do with the chorus. It really has nothing to do with the chord changes. It has nothing to do with the verses. It has to do with what he does at the end, right? So at the end of Purple Rain, he's going, I can't do it in his register. I'm going to have to do it an octave lower. I gotta think this through. Right, so he's doing that, but an octave higher. And of course, Journey's Faithfully has at the end it does. I had never made that connection before in those two songs. And I'd heard them all many, many times, right? So anyway, that was just something that occurred to me the other day as I was trying to do my conscientious consuming of stuff. Now that I'm done with that, let's get Maddie on here. Maddie. Oh, I have a few people here who would like to talk. Starting with Maddie, though. This is a promise from quite a while ago. Maddie has been a long time listener. I'm going to go ahead and send a link to a few people, but note that if you call in now, right, it will probably take a little bit. And if we've talked like recently, I do want to get to people who like. I do want to get to people who I haven't spoken with, if those people exist and want to talk. So I've just sent links to a few people, but just know that I'm going to talk to Chels first. So if you want to wait, you can wait. Don't have to. You can do whatever you like. It's all up to y'all. Look how quick this was. Just like that, Maddie called. I feel like I lost a light. I don't know if I'm going crazy here. Did I lose some light? So Maddie is in the guest room. So you all know her. She's been in chat for, I don't know, before. Was this before? I don't know why I'm going to speculate on this when I could literally just ask. So instead of me speculating, let's bring Maddie on.
Oh
Hello,
my God,
Maddie.
I'm excited.
Maddie, can you hear me?
Yes.
And I can hear you.
Okay. How bad is connection?
It's great. I think it's fine. It's a little choppy, but it's kind of like it's neat. It's like we're getting a slideshow, but it's artistic in a way. Let me hold on a second. Let me change. Oh well, that doesn't work either. I'll just kind of scoot over this way to make sure that it looks like we're both on the screen at once. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm a little slow apparently, but good.
What is that painting behind you? You're in front of a painting.
That would be mine. I did
I,
that one.
I was going to ask if you did. Is it possible to get a better shot of it? Then can we see it for a second?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very pretty. Is that mixed media?
Yeah, that is watercolor.
It's that the whole thing is watercolor. For some reason, it looks like there's actually like a 3D element to it. I don't know if that's just the way that I was seeing it.
Maybe. Yeah, no, I did that whole thing in actually maybe ink and acrylic too.
So, is that what you do? Is that what you do? Maddie, what do you do?
Okay, so I work at a jewelry store and I'm also in a culinary school.
What is your aspiration then?
To be a chef, hopefully, someday.
Can you tell us like kind of where you are? Like not too specific, but sort of.
I can tell you what college I go to. I go to Alfred State, like super small town.
That doesn't mean. I mean, I guess people could. Like what state are you? Whatever you're comfortable. I don't want to say again.
New York.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't. For some reason, it sounded like you might have had an accent that I wasn't. I guess I'm misinterpreting that. But you were born. Are you born and raised in New York?
Yeah. I don't know. What kind of accent do I have?
I don't know if it was the way things were buffering or whatever. I kind of thought it was a little bit. I thought I heard a little Latinx. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
Well, that would kind of make sense. I'm fluent in Spanish.
oh, are you? Well,
Yes.
way to flex.
Kind I'm very good at my pronunciation.
Yeah, you roll your R's and everything.
Yeah.
Can you curse? And if you're fluent in Spanish, my favorite. It's my favorite thing to do in Spanish is curse because there's just so many great sounding Spanish curses.
Mierda.
Mierda, yeah, or mira, no me joda. Es muy temprano para tanta señetera. I don't know. Maybe that'll get. I don't know what's going to happen as far as
We're gonna get
getting
in
us in
trouble.
trouble. Yeah. So how long have you been? How did you start watch? Are you a fan of ASMR? Did you start watching when we were doing gaming streams? How? Tell me about
Okay.
you
So
in relation to me.
first, okay. So I first started with the very first Last of Us ASMR.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wait. Okay. So the first last. Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood you for a second there. So that's years ago. Yeah, that was. I was living in an apartment, and I put a tent in the center of a living room, where a floor was made of marble, and I couldn't get decent lighting, and that's why it sounds echoey and looks all like flat and muddy. And frankly, it's an embarrassment to me when I look back. But so that's a
I
while.
thought you did very well.
Well, thank you. That's super nice. I appreciate that. But that's a long time then. That's 3 or 4 years ago now. 4 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, and then I kind of just kind of watched a couple of your videos, and then when you started playing Last of Us 2, that's when I really that's when I stayed.
That mess of
Yeah.
50 hours of ineptitude on display for it was it, for me. I'll tell you what. I loved that experience, but I definitely realized it for what it was, which was people can watch me make a fool of myself and laugh at me, and I can also laugh at myself, and it was great.
Yeah, that was quite the experience. By the time you finished your playthrough, I was on my third, I want to say, and I had completed the game 100%, gotten all the trophies. It was great.
So you're flexing with the bilingualism and also with the gameplay ability. I see.
Well, if we say bilingual, I'm trilingual. Oh God, that hurt me. I'm so sorry.
What makes the other end of that triangle? What makes the other point of that triangle? What language?
Russian.
Russian? Why? Why?
Okay, so half of my family is from Portugal, right? The other half is from Russia.
Wow. Okay. That okay. And when you say like you know Russian and you know Spanish, you don't mean like you just know a smattering of it. Like you can actually converse with your family members in Russian and or Spanish.
So the only family member that actually fluently knows Russian is my aunt, and currently we don't talk a lot, but she went to China and went all abroad and was learning Russian, and she's completely fluent. Compared to her, I am like an ant.
But you
So
can hold up a
I can
conversation
speak
with her.
some.
Is it one of those things where you
Yes,
can
I think so.
understand it a lot more than you can speak it?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you don't look Russian or traditionally Russian or Latino, Latinx, Latina, Latin. So do you sometimes have you ever run into people talking in Spanish thinking you don't understand what they're saying and you do?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that annoying? Okay. Or do you, uh, do you come back at them with something
Unless they're
in,
like, so like if they're directly insulting someone and like, oh yeah, they don't understand what we're saying, it's fine. Like that's when it gets annoying. But
yeah,
other than that, I mean, like just don't insult people and assume, you know?
right. Can I ask the necklace that you're wearing, is that from the jewelers where you work?
Yes. Oh
Like, is
my
that one of the
gosh.
perks
Yes,
that you
you're
get?
right.
Do you,
Yes, this was a graduation gift from my boss.
oh, okay. So it's not like you can just kind of like take pieces and wear them as long as you bring them back or something.
I can do that too, but with my luck, I'd end up breaking something.
So how far along are you in culinary school? What is your, and in
So
fact, I don't even
my
know.
first semester just ended.
Oh, you just finished your first semester,
Yes, but
and it was,
prior to, I have 2 years of experience
ha-
in school.
but not culinary experience.
Yes, we have a BOCES program, so you can actually like go and learn and be in a kitchen every day for 2 years. So that's what I did.
Oh, okay, so that's already done. So
Yes.
you can cook.
Yeah.
Like you're not just okay. And what's left for you? And I don't even know like what is the degree? Like what is the what's the remainder of the program? And then what do you get once you're done with
As
it?
it stands,
Can you say that one more time?
think as it stands, like typically it's a 2 year program. It's very labor intensive, but there's not a lot of like book work to do. So essentially I just cook every day for two
But he's
years and then they hand me my paper and I'm gone.
but he's saying 2 more years, or are you? Because you said you already did 2 years, right? Or did I misunderstand you?
So I did in high school I did 2 years.
Oh,
In
okay,
college I have to do
gotcha.
another year and a half.
And then what is the actual diploma or certificate or whatever it is that you get? What is that?
An associate's degree in culinary, I
In
think.
just in culinary arts or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, it's culinary arts and hospitality.
And is it
So it's like
are you remote right now?
I just finished remote, yeah.
So what was that like? Because then I would imagine like it would be difficult, like because not everybody has the stuff that they would need to cook all of the things I would imagine you'd have to learn. There'd be a lot of equipment that you would need, I would think, access to.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't have half of the stuff that the kitchen has,
So how did they
but
get around that?
they had us. Yeah, we for online we did book work, a lot of book work.
You did a lot of book work. So does that always translate? Like so so you read about how to make things. You
So
didn't necessarily
basically,
make them. Say that again?
so so for our like we had lab, and that is where we work in the kitchen for like 3 months, right? And then after we go remote, then we do recipe conversions, we do menu planning, costing, um, just like general manager stuff,
Gotcha.
I guess.
Okay. So you weren't remote when you were doing. So there was a period this year where you were not remote, but it was during COVID still, like at the beginning, the first half of this year.
Yes, right.
And how did that go? Did you manage to? Did anybody catch COVID? Were there safety precautions in place? Was it kind of what was it? What was the situation there? What was that like?
So with COVID, we have 3 kitchens. One kitchen serves actual customers. The other kitchen is a cafeteria where we serve students, and then the third kitchen is a bakery. So the entire bakery got infected with COVID and had to shut down.
Oh wow. That would
Yeah.
be my favorite
So
place.
we used to get desserts from there. So instead of getting freshly baked desserts, we got like frozen storeroom stuff. It was like 2 week period of pure torture.
Do the in the area where you're cooking for students, are the students aware that other students are cooking for them? Is there like a discount or something? Is there?
Yep. They can see into the kitchen, so they see all of us students in uniform and we're cooking for them. And no, we don't get a discount. And also, we don't get to take any of the food home without paying for it, which is horrible.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. But these are not all
Our
like
school is
the people you're cooking for, are they all also culinary students, or they can be students for whatever else that school offers?
So we are on our secondary wing of our campus. So
Mhm.
we cook for technological students like plumbers, carpenters,
Oh, wow.
auto body. Yeah. So it's all like people who eat a lot. So we go through
It
like
works
tons
well.
and tons of food.
What's the most difficult thing to cook that you cook?
Now that you say that, I can't think of anything that's challenged me thus far.
What
I've
what I hear risotto is hard. Is that not true?
I can do risotto. I mean the difference is using the right ingredients and timing it right.
So, and don't you have to like stir it nonstop for an hour or something? Isn't it rather labor
Yeah.
intensive, or is that
Hollandaise sauce. Hollandaise sauce can be very challenging.
from scratch?
Yes.
Because from the bottle, it's not very hard.
But from the bottle, it's kind of.
So, when you're done for the year, then you're going to start up again in January. Is that
We start again February 1st.
okay? And is that going to be remote?
That will be in person. And then we go remote the last 2 weeks if Corona is still around.
But you still have basically 2 years or a year and a half or a year and change left before
Yeah.
you get your certificate. Okay. And what do you want to, you want to be a chef? Like, do you want to like have your own restaurant? Do you want to like, what's your, if
The
the
only
sky's the
thing
limit?
about having yeah. So in New York, I would like to have a restaurant. Like, I live in a very small town. It's not New York City, it's upstate New York.
Yeah.
So very small, but taxes are still really high. So if I could, I would like to have like a restaurant bakery. I think that would be the coolest.
Do you prefer baking to cooking?
Surprisingly, it's baking that I prefer, but most of
Why
the
is that
time
surprising?
in yeah,
Why is that
because
surprising though?
well,
Because like,
most of the people in my class prefer cooking to baking.
because
But
they
there's
feel
a
like there's
different
more art to it or
dynamic.
something? Is that,
Yeah.
yeah, because I hear, I mean, I know nothing about any of this except for I watched the Great British Baking Show, right? Which obviously has like a high degree of artistry in what they present. But then there's also like, well, it is, in a way, it is almost like you're following a formula for a large amount of it, right? Whereas I would guess like in
Yeah.
cooking, there might be this kind of snobbery about like, well, this is more about like feel or like going by instinct or, and not, making sure that your measurements are exact all the time or whatever. There's more, you can be a little more loosey-goosey with it than you can with baking, like, because otherwise your cake won't rise or this won't set or I don't know, Paul Hollywood will give you that look that he gives people. You won't get a handshake. But you prefer baking. So you want to have a restaurant and that does both, but you would probably be more on the baking side. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as do you have any idea like when you go back in February what they're going to do to try and prevent uh, the other two restaurants from being giant COVID super spreader areas?
So currently we have to wear masks in the kitchen all day long. There is no exceptions. It has to be covering your mouth and your nose.
Ah, it must
And
get hot
then,
in there, right?
and
Like,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
lot of work.
I would imagine it
But
would be difficult. Yeah,
there's a lot of frustration with that.
with having to wear the masks.
Yes.
Be-
Because I go to school with a bunch of other students who don't necessarily believe in the math, believe it's a hindrance to their performance as such.
because they can't smell as well, or they so yeah.
Because we do have to taste the things that we make. You have to do that in a kitchen. If you don't do that, then you're not sure of what you're producing, right?
Right.
So we have to walk away, take down our masks, try the food, and then put our masks back on, throw the
Yeah, but
spoon away, and continue working.
if you get COVID, you could lose your sense of taste or smell for months, right? So I would think moving a mask aside might be uh, a trivial compromise to make in comparison. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so what's your favorite thing to bake?
Oh, my favorite thing. I love pie. I love pie so
Oh man, I
much.
wish you weren't gonna say that. That's the worst. Pies are. I'm not a pie fan. No, I don't like pies. Um, I like
What do you
savory
like?
pies. I don't like sweet pies.
Meat pie?
No, no. Well, yeah, yeah, like chicken pot pie or something like that. I can, or shepherd's pie. I can go for that. But like apple pie, cherry pie, blueberry pie. I guess I could eat apple pie, right? But I just don't love it. I don't love the texture. I get very hung up on textures.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are pies that I have met that I have despised, and there are others that I love. So,
But pies seem to be the one or one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, in baking where there is more of room for interpretation and maybe room for you to kind of do it the way you want to do it a little more than just like for a cake. It's just you got to make sure you have exactly this much of this and exactly this much of that, or it's not going to work, right? Whereas pie, there's more,
yeah,
like some people like their pie to be a different consistency, or there, I would think there would be more room for you to do stuff in a pie than in a cake, right? Is that
yeah, I don't
fair? Or
know.
is,
I feel like baking is definitely a science, but pie crusts are surprisingly more lenient than a cake would be. But pastry dough in itself is not very forgiving.
do you prefer rough puff? I'm just saying things from the Great Baking Show that I've heard. They always say like, well, they're going to do a rough puff pastry because it's quicker, and in this temperature, it's easier to do a rough puff. I guess you don't have to work it as long, or it's easier to make it. I don't know what I'm talking about, Maddie. I have no idea. Like to me, eating is a thing that I do because I have to do it. I don't. In, like if I could have just a button that would be like, "You won't be hungry," press this button. I would be pressing that button. Um, but I'm sure that you make stuff that I would love and that everybody in the chat would love. But I've never heard you mention it in chat, or have I just missed it?
I honestly I can't remember. I think I've like very briefly maybe I've mentioned it. Like if someone asked what I do, I don't know, maybe.
But now you're gonna get people like asking for your advice on stuff. Hopefully, a bunch. Hold on. I want to see if
Yeah,
anybody
I don't
has Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Maddie? Let's see. Do you think potatoes are cold when they're underground?
That's a real question.
I'm missing some context. PG's saying that I'm objectively wrong. I'm assuming in my assessment of pies. Everybody here likes pies. Um, oh my gosh. Yeah, a lot of pie lovers. Gosh.
There are
Oh,
very few people that I have that don't like pie.
well, yeah, I mean, I'm very discerning. Um, Croissants are hard, right? You have to like fold those a zillion times.
Yes, you have
Hmm.
to fold in butter, and if the butter melts, then you're screwed.
Here we go. Do you think pineapple belongs on pizza?
Ah, my fiance will hate me for this, but yes, a combination of sweet and savory is not something to be scorned.
I'm hearing an accent, Maddie. Like I
I don't know.
swear I swear I just heard like when you said my fiance will hate me for this. I think I heard an accent. Do you have any recipe here's Chels? Do you have any recipes for good vegetarian dishes? By the way, Chels, yeah, don't yawn because you're in the green room now and visible. But Maddie, do you have any recipes for good vegetarian dishes that you can share
Okay, so stews are always like I think stews are always perfect for vegetarian dishes.
with like
You
a
can
nice
make
chicken
anything
stock?
into a yeah. You can do it without the you can use vegetable stock.
Vegetable stock. Oh boy. I was vegan for years, and but I was a terrible, terrible vegan. I was so unhealthy. Um, yeah, and I get into these weird sort of, uh, I, I just get these moments where I crave meat, like, and it's very hard
Me
to.
too. I'm crazy. When I tell them that I need to eat something that is meat,
This is
I get it though.
yeah, and like if I smell it, oh my God, if I drive by like even when I was vegan and I would drive by like a barbecue, I would just be like, you gotta drive faster. I cannot be around this, or I'm not going to be able to control. And yet I'm saying that, and yet a few minutes ago I was just like, oh, if I could just press a button, I don't care about food. Here's what I think what it came down to, Maddie, was like I got into a situation where I was basically, and this is when the early days of having kids, where my ex-wife and I and the kids, it was basically like during breakfast, we would literally during breakfast be talking about what we were going to have for lunch. And then during lunch, we would be talking about what we were going to do for dinner. And it just seemed life was an endless meal and or planning for a meal. Um, and so I think I got sort of just, I was just like, you know what, just give me like a bar, right? Like a nutrient bar or some kind of IV that will just give me the nutrients that I need. And I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to have to set time aside for it. I don't want to like talk about it all the time or think about it. And I'm a miserable person to be around, I think is what it comes down to. Um,
Actually, making food, sometimes it can be tedious. It depends on the context. But if I could go a day without eating, I definitely would. But I know that it's something that you don't know what you have until it's
is is it now that well, I'm assuming you probably cooked a lot throughout your life. Like it's not something that just started when you started going to school for it, right? Um,
right.
but I'm wondering if like being so into cooking makes it difficult for you to like if you're like makes it hard for you to say like eat a frozen pizza, right? Like or if you're presented with something that's
Uh,
substandard, are you a
I
harsher
lived with a
critic?
single father for a year,
Say that again.
so I lived with my single father for a year, who is famously known for his frozen meals. Like, if anything, I would be glad to not eat frozen meals, but I can definitely stomach them. Like, I love ramen noodles. Like 25 cents a package? Heck yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, that's basically just salt, right? Like it's a lovely fat and salt. Oh man, now I want ramen. Do you so do you have before I don't want to keep you too much longer here, Maddie, but do you have any questions you have for anyone in chat or me or really about anything? Do you have any questions for anyone, even if it's not me or someone in chat?
Is there going to be a Cyberpunk video? Like, like Johnny Silverhand's coming up. I'm expecting one. Since the glasses showed up on your timeline earlier.
Lots of people wear red glasses.
Oh, that's horrible. That is the worst diversion I've ever heard. I'm so
Uh, the idea is yes. Here are the obstacles to that. One, I want to play the game first, right? And I want to like
yes.
really kind of understand the source material better before I do it. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm gonna have to shave, which I don't like doing. Johnny Silverhand wears like from all the materials I see, wears sleeveless stuff, which I cannot do. So I'll have to have like do something to address that, like get like some kind of like a leather jacket or something, or a fake leather jacket or something like that. But yeah, that's the intent. But I really can't. The intent is yes, eventually, but it's not certainly not going to be in time, like that. Probably next year, right? Like probably like in January or something, based on
That's a fair timeline.
yeah, knowing how fast I work and how easily distracted I am, and the fact that I'm going to spend at least 200 hours playing this game, I'm guessing, right? Like all those things are going to prevent me from getting this done in any kind of timely manner. So basically, like once everyone has lost interest in it, that's when I will post a video of it. That seems to be my forte, is posting videos about things that are already gone out of the public eye and nobody cares about anymore.
Hey, but you have to run for quality over quantity, which is very important.
Sure, I'll take that. I appreciate that, Maddie. That's very. When are you getting married? You have a fiance. I can see your ring. When are you getting married?
At current, I'm thinking 3 years ahead of time, maybe
Wow.
3 or 4. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So it's not like something you're planning right now. Okay.
Yes, we have quite a bit of time. Yes, I want to graduate first.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Maddie. Well, thank you very much for calling. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get to you in the was it last week or the week before? I think it was actually a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago, wasn't it? It was last week?
that's
Okay.
totally fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't in
I'm
a rush.
I am always glad to see your avatar pop up, and I'm glad that you're part of the community, and thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, you like pies, whatever. Not nobody's perfect. Hopefully
Oh,
your
so,
what's your future husband's opinion on pie versus like cake?
he actually kind of doesn't like either. He can eat cake, but his favorite cake is cheesecake. Though
Oh, that's
cheesecake
just
is more
not.
of a pie.
Yeah, that's not right. I don't like cheesecake either. Yeah. I wish I could say I approve, but I don't. But anyway, yes, give him my best and good luck. I'm sure we'll talk before February, but if for some reason we don't, good luck and stay safe when you do go back, and have a good
Yes.
holiday and all that stuff. And yeah, we'll talk again sometime, whenever you want.
Yeah, sweet. I am very thankful to have been on, and I'm going back in the chat now.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Um, And I'll talk to you later. Maddie. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
That was Maddie. So people now can associate, but Maddie's avatar was a picture of Maddie, so it was pretty, I think we knew what Maddie was going to look like before Maddie appeared. But in the green room right now is somebody who I thought was Paul McCartney or looked like Paul McCartney. But from what I can tell, I don't really know because it's like a tiny little thumbnail the way that it does this. Yeah, so please welcome Chels into the chat. Oh wow, look. Actually is Paul McCartney.
Hello.
I got fooled for a moment there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I like your sweater.
Thank you.
Like I want one of those sweaters. I just recently ordered a sweater, one of those, I guess they're like the kind of British military sweaters that have that kind of vinyl patches on the shoulders. And it fits me so horribly that I'm sending it back. And that's what I'm trying to find is a sweater like that I actually
I bought this
like.
from a vintage shop. 'Cause you can't go wrong with a vintage jumper. So looking vintage shops for anything like that.
Chels, what accent am I hearing? I know
You
it's
are
British.
hearing a Scottish accent.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I am Scottish person. Hold on.
Okay. How are you doing? Where can you tell us whereabouts? Like do you live in Scotland?
Yeah, I live in Scotland. I'm in the southwest of Dumfries and Galloway. It's in that region. It's down near the border. Right.
But it's still very cold.
Still very cold, yeah. It's like the rest of Scotland. It rains. It's miserable. But it's actually a really nice part of Scotland is a really lovely part of the world. Like I'll make fun of my hometown for being a bit of a dump, but the drive into my hometown is beautiful. So, we can appreciate all that. We're quite close to the coast as well. So there's a lot to love about it.
How big of a town is your hometown? Like,
the hometown was, I'm not sure. It's quite a big town, but the surrounding area is bigger. Like it's mainly fields surrounding it, and we're quite close to Carlisle, which is a city in Cumbria in England. Like it's about a 40-minute train journey away. So
I guess I'm wondering, like relative to Miami, how big is?
I don't know how big Miami is. I've never checked. Which is a surprise because you mention it a lot.
I just assume now everybody knows everything about Miami because of how often I ramble about it. So I see that PG is calling. Also, sorry, hold on a second. PG, if you could hold on, I will get to you. But I just wanted to let him know. So I'm gonna you have to forgive me. I think I know some things about you, but if I say something and this doesn't apply to you, I'm sorry. But I think that you are an actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. And that you recently got an acting job, doing tours?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's technically I'm a casual practitioner. I think that's what my role is. It's technically acting, and it's at the house that inspired Jane Barrie to write Peter Pan. It's it's Scotland's Centre for Children's Literature and Storytelling. I think I got that right. And basically we started doing these tours, which they vary. Like we had a Halloween tour, and it's to bring people in, and it's, it was like, we've got a host of different characters. I play a tour guide character, who's quite eccentric and everything. And at the moment we've got our Christmas tours, which
but you're a tour guide, but you're playing a tour guide. So
I'm playing a very eccentric tour guide, yeah.
Okay.
She's just for comedic purposes.
Is there an actual tour guide in addition to you, or is it just?
It's just me.
Okay, so you're the tour guide, but
character.
You're putting on. Okay, got it. Got it. That's actually
I've only
really
played
cool.
that character twice.
Okay, but I like that kind of meta-ness
Yeah, it's really
of it.
fun.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
And so it's where Peter Pan was written, or the inspiration for.
It's a fun. I love telling the story. It's really nice. J.M. Barrie lived in Dumfries for a while as a child, and he went to the school next to the house, and his friends lived in that house. And he used to play in the garden with the boys who lived there. And sometimes he'd skip school by climbing over the fence to go and play pirates in the garden. And he said, after writing Peter Pan, he came back and said it was playing in that garden that inspired him to write Peter Pan and
That
create
is
Neverland.
really awesome.
It's
And
really awesome.
is it beautiful? I know you said like the drive into your town is beautiful. Is it beautiful also there?
Oh, it is stunning. It's a children's, like, if I wish I was a child when they opened. They only opened it last year, because it's magical. They've got speakers that have like voices, like you can hear Peter, you can hear the crocodile ticking, you can hear Tinkerbell going around. They've got a giant pirate ship. They've got a huge slide. They've got there's crocodiles hidden everywhere that you need to find. They've got a storytelling area. It's gorgeous.
But
Yeah.
it's a guided tour. Like you take people from places. It's not like a free roaming kind of.
Not always, no. The garden is free roaming. Sometimes we have characters going about, like before COVID and before I worked there, they'd have actors who would go about the house dressed as fairies or pirates to interact with the kids to make it, because they want it to be quite an immersive experience. So they have downstairs, they have kind of like the more historical kind of information about J.M. Barrie and everything, and upstairs it's basically children's books everywhere. They've got a theatre bit upstairs. They've got like an interactive wall where kids can go up and catch Tinkerbell and
When you say
everything.
a theater bit, do you mean like a theater, like an actual theater where they'll put on like a show?
It's like a kind of, it's small. It's like a little in a room, kind of small, kind of like where kids can put on plays and dress up and everything. So it's magical. That's the only word I can really use to describe it.
And what's the status of it now? Like, is it, or this is something that you're doing now?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got the job back in September. I feel very lucky to have got the job because I never thought I'd be saying that I'd be in a paid acting job during a pandemic.
But that's
Um,
that's I guess where my next question is like, how are they handling? ha- People are showing up, obviously, right?
yeah, yeah. We wear visors while performing, so we've got fairies with visors on having
Oh
to.
wow,
The audience have to wear masks, and we're only allowed two family bubbles in each tour. So that basically means like
two family what? Two.
we're calling them bubbles, like we call them bubbles in the UK. It's like so we it's you can have a bubble with another family, I think. So it's like people that you can be around and go to
Ah,
places with, but you can
gotcha.
only
Okay,
so we're only allowed two, and I think the maximum amount of people we can actually have is 12 in each tour. So at the moment we're doing 3 tours an hour. And it's basically it's Christmas at Mowbray. They've got to help us find our fairy queen, and they come through and they have to find a word to make a spell to help find her, and they get told a story. I tell them a kind of different version of Scrooge, which doesn't fit my character at all because my character is just really mad and eccentric, and then all of a sudden she goes quite, telling kids about like, this Victorian story, and they're gonna look at me like, okay, but yeah,
so,
it's
so
still a lot.
just so I've got this 100% clear, uh, you can have on a given tour, you can have two family bubbles, each consisting of 12 people each, so a maximum of 24 people.
No,
On,
only 12 in each tour. So a
okay,
minute, like 6 in each bubble kind of thing.
okay,
It's weird.
and then you do 3 tours an hour, or are there other tour
There are other
guides?
actors.
Okay,
There are other actors. There's 3 of us in each. So they go into the first room and they're met by a fairy who comes and gives them the introduction. They find the first 3 words. They do their story, which I think is about like jumping elves or something. And then they come through to my room, which is the drawing room. It's the whole house is wonderful. It's all decorated for Christmas. I do my bit. They find the words. I do the story. Then they go through, find the fairy queen. She takes them upstairs, does her story, and then they go outside and get to see the garden. So
how much of this is visible online? Like, can people go? Like, are there pictures of the garden and stuff? I would assume there are,
yeah,
right?
there is. On Insta, you'll see videos of me on Instagram, playing the fairy if that's something you want to see.
Yeah,
Um,
that I
yeah,
think, yeah.
awesome.
um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one place. Obviously, this isn't just like some Peter Pan theme park somewhere. This is the home of.
It's it's like yeah, it's now the interesting story about it is that they left the building became a hospital after a while, and then it was abandoned and it was left in a horrible state. And then Peter Pan Mowbray Trust, they bought it for £1. Joanna, do you know who Joanna Lumley is?
Yeah,
I don't know if,
yeah,
yeah,
of
she's
course.
our
She recently
patron.
died, didn't she? Didn't she like just?
No, I hope not. Yeah, no, she's alive and well. She's just recorded an audiobook to raise money for Mowbray and Great Ormond Street
I'm
Hospital.
thinking of from Absolutely Fabulous, Joanna
I
Lumley.
think
Is
it
that?
was the mother, Adina's mother, who died. I can't think.
Oh,
Don't think
okay,
anyone else.
okay. But Joanna Lumley is from Absolutely Fabulous. That's
Yeah,
okay.
I
Yeah,
love her
all
too.
right.
It's just
Okay.
really cool. But yeah, she's our patron. She does like, a lot of fundraising for us. She promotes us and stuff. She's just wonderful. Um, and she campaigned to save the building, and I think they put 8 million into it to reconstruct it to make it look like how it once looked, and made the garden, built the garden, and it's just yeah, they with the idea of this is a place where children can come. We encourage them to read, we encourage them to write, we encourage them to use their imagination, and it's got a cafe now and everything, and it's a bookshop, and it's yeah, it's becoming like it's I think it was voted actually last year. I think it was Time magazine included it in like the world's top 50 coolest places for children to visit, which is
That
cool.
that is pretty. That is incredible. Like, what do you know if it was ahead of Disney World?
I'm not sure. I mean,
Because
I
Disney
mean,
World is like one of the worst places in the world for children to visit.
well, Disney World wouldn't have its Peter Pan attractions without Walt Bray in a way. So
Well, they actually the Disney World that I went to anyway had a Peter Pan ride, and they took it down because I guess it wasn't Star Wars or whatever is the new IP that that Disney has acquired. It was not based on a Pixar movie anymore, so it had traditional hand drawn animation when the movie came out, and I don't know, same reason they lost 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I guess. Um, but and is this a job now that is this like a permanent thing? Is this a seasonal thing? Is it?
I
Oh, I don't
hope
know
it's
if I.
yeah. I've been there. I thought it was going to be a temporary thing, like just for a few weekends, but it turns out when I went for the interview, which I only got because I was in a play with a woman who recommended me to my boss, my current boss, the guy who runs the kind of creative team at Mowbray, and he revealed to me on the day that she's his wife, and she highly recommended me to him, and I was like, "Thank you, I owe you a drink."
This
um,
this yeah, and so you're the talent and ability and probably professionalism. Speculating here, right? That you showed in this play. What play was it?
it's a play that is coming out tomorrow, actually. Got a lot to promote. Yeah, it's a radio play. It's going to be it's a community-based play done by a community arts centre. All local actors in it. A local writer and director worked on it. It's a really funny play, political play. In fact, it's when I first
Political
went.
play.
Yeah, he said when the way he sold it to me when I had a chat with the writer because I know him from I do open mic nights at the same place, and that's how I've kind of got all these opportunities from doing these open mics.
Open mic
He
comedy, open mic poetry,
Yeah, a
open.
bit. It's an open mic night where it's called Brave New Words, and it's musicians, poetry, actors, anything, and perform
But
the
what
monologue
what do
one
you
day.
do when
And
you go there usually?
what do I do? I do a what I call character performances, and they vary from just I kind of call myself I've kind of developed this name called the accidental comedian because it was never my intention to be funny. It just sort of happened. One day I went up, I performed this monologue, which I thought was quite good. It was my first time performing anything solo, anything I'd written, and I had a few bits that I thought were a bit funny. People might laugh at it, and they got pretty good laughs. And I thought, oh, I like this. This is nice. So next time I thought, right, I'm going to do a purely comedic character, see what happens. And yeah, people just now call me that funny girl.
But you do monologues. You do
And it just sort of, yeah, I've just started doing all these weird characters.
that's awesome. And so you write these monologues for characters, and then you go up and perform them.
Yeah.
And through that, you got cast in a play, and through that play, you got this job working at the grounds and or restored house where the author of Peter Pan, Barry,
Yeah, no.
oh, J.M. Barry, right? Yeah, so, yeah. So it's interesting how like I always find like you can kind of go back and like kind of see the stuff that people do and how connections are made and how you end up where you are. And it often seems like it starts with like, I went and did this thing, right? And I don't think anybody saw it. I don't think anybody cared, and it sucked, and whatever it is. But then somebody saw you do that, and because of that, then this other thing happened. You can follow kind of this trail of events that started with something that, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the case for you, but I'm just like saying in general, maybe something that you thought the general you thought was meaningless, or maybe thought wasn't worth the time for you to do even, or we're like, well, what's the point of this? And like this is the point, right? You're a living example of the point of how those kinds of connections are made.
Yeah, kind of. It all spans to July 2019. I look back at July 2019 because just two significant things happened in July 2019. I performed. First of all, I did modeling for the first time, something I never wanted to do. But the vintage shop where I bought this, they was just in, and I go in quite a lot when I visit Carlisle, and they just asked me, fancy doing some modeling? I was like, all right, it looks nice, cool clothes. Okay, why not? Oh, sorry. Yeah, and from that, they're like, oh, we have gigs on, local bands and stuff. I'm like, great. Showed up to one, and they said, do you want to interview the bands? Okay. Hey, do you fancy doing this every time we have a gig? You can come in for free, pay with alcohol. Great. So from that, from doing that, that gave me a big confidence boost. And then I performed at Brave New Words. And the thing is, it was a significant moment because I had never performed anything I'd written myself before. I'd never performed solo, and I didn't rehearse it in front of anyone. I didn't get any help with it. I live with my mum still, and she had no idea what I was doing. She's just like, this is a thing that I need to do on my own to prove to myself that I can write, because nobody had read my writing, nobody had really seen me perform monologues before or anything. So it was just to prove to myself that I could do it, and it worked out kind of well.
But is your goal writing? Is that what you want to do, or is it acting?
Acting and writing, both. A bit of a kind of, you see like a Taika Waititi, John Cleese kind of, you act. People don't like people that do that, but I kind of like it. I like playing the characters that I write. I've been doing it for over a year now, and yeah, so that's kind of, if in an ideal world, that's the plan. I'm actually writing a play at the moment. I'm on the second draft, and the writer of the play that, the radio play, he's helping me out with it, and it might come something. He's talking about that, so who knows? This time next year, I might have a play credit under my name, which would be incredible. I mean,
that is so cool. And to me, I mean, like I think that's awesome. I think it's amazing the number of like, and I'm not saying this is like a credit to me in any way, but the number of people in chat, right, who generally show up, the number of creatives that are in chat, I think is like the proportion it's disproportionate. Like there are a lot of like writers, chefs, artists. It just seems like that seems to be the kind of people who are gravitating here, and I love that, and I think that is fantastic.
The more the merrier.
Yeah. Are you familiar with League of Gentlemen?
Yeah. I've not watched a lot of it, but yeah, yeah, Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss is specifically who I was going to call, because he will often do like these kind of single person monologues that are within League of Gentlemen who will do these monologues that are these sort of long comedic character bits that usually take a turn somewhere about halfway through. That when you were talking about the stuff that you were doing, that's immediately what came to mind was, oh, I wonder if it's like the kind of stuff Mark Gatiss does or did.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're quite into your British comedy, aren't you? I've noticed that.
I I mean, I was raised on it, right? Like it's. I mean, but it's just. I think every American knows Monty Python, Faulty Towers, Red Dwarf, League
Oh,
of
I love Red. I've
Gentlemen.
I've met Chris Barry. I went to Comic Con when I was back in 2016, and yeah, I met Chris Barry. He was really cool.
Yeah, he seems like he could be a jerk. So I don't. I'm glad he was cool.
It was all right. He seemed like a decent guy. Yeah, he signed two autographs for me. It was funny. Yeah, he was when people asked him to do his Kenneth Williams impression, he did it. So he was. But what I was going to say is, because one of my favorite British comedies is The Young Ones, and I was wondering if you've ever
Oh
watched
my
The Young
God.
Ones.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yes, I
Those,
love
I
it.
mean, and I even was into Bottom, like, which
Oh,
was
really?
Rick
Excellent.
Mayall and Ade Edmondson. Um, yeah, Adrian Edmondson as Viv and Rick Mayall.
Mm.
I mean, Drop Dead Fred. And I was really sad when Rick Mayall died, obviously. Um, but yeah, the young ones, although is a bit dated now, right? Like it's a little like I remember watching it a lot, and I also remember like rewatching it a few years ago and saying like, oh, it didn't quite, I love the music, I love the bands that they have on,
Yeah.
I love every time Vivian like bashes his head into something, or every time Nigel Planer, right, is making lentils or whatever it is. Like, there's a lot for how subversive they were being. They were also like really conventional in a lot of ways. Like a lot of like what their setups were very traditional sitcom-y in a way that you might not think that they would be if you go by like sort of the premise and what they were actually, I guess, trying to do. But yeah, no, I love the young ones. Yeah.
Funny, because I
Um,
have a moment, and I did a serial killer act once, and I've got quite a funny story about the serial killer act because the first time I performed it was at this vintage shop that I go to in Carlisle because they were hosting a speakeasy, but they weren't the ones. They were just renting out the space to a very traditional Cumbrian 15-year-old speakeasy full of traditional poets who
uh-oh.
all tell kind of like I was the third one. None of them, only two people who I knew from the gigs were there and knew me and kind of knew that I was going to do something a bit wacky. Um, the first guy on he kept on repeat. He was an old chap and he kept on repeating himself and he was telling like poems about his childhood and everything. Then the second guy, he had a really bad stutter and he was telling like poems about the countryside. And then I got up and I thought I'm going to do it in character. I introduced myself to the audience as a typical serial killer from a typical horror film, and the stunned silence in the room, like this complete stranger coming up and doing that. And the top moment has to be this one single voice echoed from the crowd, just this, "What?" And I was like, it's worth it. Whatever happens now, it was worth it for that guy. Just like just the stunned shock. But in the end, they found it funny, and I didn't get like told off, so it was okay. But
So
yeah,
you won them over in the end. It took a little
in the end,
while.
yeah. But in the middle of it, I have what I call my Alexei Sale moment.
Oh,
Because I kind
yeah.
of like have a moment like where I stop to tell them a funny poem, like I'm reading a poem about being a serial killer, and I kind of pause halfway through and start this kind of little rant. You know, when he then goes, "I never wanted to be a trained rabbi," you know. It was kind of like that,
Yeah, because
but
Alexi Sale in the young ones would always kind of like break, like do like this kind of
yeah,
stop in the middle and like do this kind of his
yeah,
own
I love
thing.
that. So I
Um,
did that and that, and yeah, it was good. So that's kind of why I thought. But I had a feeling you'd like the young ones. I kind of had that. If
it's
you
it's
like room, all that kind of thing. So.
it's funny that you brought up serial killers because something that I was planning to bring up at some point and I probably won't get around to it was Samuel Little, who was an American serial killer, today has admitted, and apparently it's credible, to like 90 more victims, which would put him at like the most, if verified, the largest number of people killed by a serial killer. Um, Yeah, Samuel Little. Yeah, just I don't know if you're interested in serial killers in general.
Again, when I played serial killer, I made it clear that I'm like a film serial killer. Like I make references to like Hannibal Lecter and Norman
Got it.
Bates and all that sort of thing. So, because I thought that's a way I won't get into trouble. I won't offend anybody too deeply. I just like, yeah, it's not real. The movie producers let me out for the day into the real world, and I'm not allowed to kill anyone who's actually outside the screen. So, only people inside the screen. That's how I put it.
I
Um,
sometimes worry about like the things that I Google, right? Like if I'm Googling something for a character that I'm gonna do or something, combined with if I'm making something for it, like maybe I'll be looking up quicklime or something like, and then I often wonder if there's like some network that's putting these searches together and keeping a list somewhere of like, oh, well, this person is looking up weird things and you know they get put on a list somewhere and maybe that night you got put on a list somewhere and you're just not.
Oh, well, as a writer, definitely. For this play, the last thing I Googled was list of religious slurs because it's got some sectarianism in it. So I couldn't think of like what some Protestants threw each other, so I can't Google it. And I'm like, wow, this is here I am just researching all these different slurs. Nice.
Well, you just have to be extra careful and not. You're just gonna have to not kill anybody or start any religious inter-religious riots or anything like that.
Or any riots or anything.
Yes, you'd be first on the list. Well, wow, this was by the way. So Chels is your name, is that right? Is it, like,
Chelsea.
Chelsea, right? Okay. But you go by Chels.
Not necessarily. Well, people I know, but yeah, either or.
Either or. Okay. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for calling in. This was and thank you for and you know, like I said to Maddie too, right? Like, thank you so much for everything that you contribute to chat. It's been great, and I'm gonna look up this Peter Pan place.
Please
and
do. I
hopefully-
mean, if you want to see me dressed as a fairy, I mean, there's lots of weird videos going up in that. Feel free. You might see me as in my horror gear as well. And can I just say as well, like, I'm always. Have you always asking this? And I'm always intrigued because you're a bloody good actor.
Wait, what? Me? Did you kind of cut out there for a minute? So I
Sorry.
think you said did you ask me if I act or if I'm
Have you ever had any kind of acting lessons? Because you're a bloody good actor.
Oh,
Basically.
no, that's really kind, but definitely not. And I definitely wish that I wish that I was better. I think the things that I can do, I can do, but I there's a lot of things that's just like, no, yeah, I definitely can't do this. Like the things that I end up publishing are the things that worked out, and it just so happens that like I kind of fit that. You know, like the actors who are basically they're not really acting; they're just always taking the same role over and over again, right? And you get the feeling like, well, okay, yeah, they were fine in this, but I have a feeling if we ask this person to stretch themselves and actually go outside of this comfort zone they seem to live their life in, they probably wouldn't be that great of an actor, right? Like I kind of feel like that's me. Like I can only do the very limited set of things that I can do, and once I start to go outside of that comfort zone, I mean, I did a Scottish accent for to try and do David Tennant in Broadchurch, and it was I published it. Like I came very close to not publishing it, right? But I have no illusions about how bad or how
When I
poor
feel
of a-
down and sad, I always turn to the Broadchurch video just for a giggle. Because I'll tell you what, you get guttural and world, right? Because you
World.
get the world guttural. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. I'll tell you what, like from watching ASMR, like one of my biggest issues, you know, when I was acting was my pacing. And from watching ASMR videos, since they're quite slow, I would watch your videos to help me work on pacing and also storytelling. Because since I'm doing a lot of storytelling videos, they help a lot, especially with doing just one. Since a lot of your videos are mainly just the one character talking to the camera, I'm trying to practice that due to lockdown and everything. And I'd always turn to your videos to get inspiration. So thank you for just your
That's
creativity and everything.
that's awesome to hear. Thank you very much, Chelsea. And if you ever write any long comedic monologues that you're like, oh well, I did this and now I'm done with it and I'm not going to do anything with it, feel free to send it to me because
Lovely.
I do like I write as much as I can, but it's hard to keep up like the level of output that you would need to do in order to, especially in ASMR where everyone's basically just like, well, yeah, but you didn't put out a video yesterday or the day before yesterday, so what the hell's going on? You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, thank you. You're very
Thank
kind.
you. It's been lovely. Really nice.
Cool. Okay, well, I will see you back in chat, Chelsea, and congrats on everything that you've been able to accomplish, and congrats on the sweater because
Thank you. Yeah. Got multiple sweaters. Yeah, doing. I feel like this has just been me like talking about me, and it feels weird.
but that's exactly
Um,
what I talk about myself all the time. So the last thing I want to do is like talk about myself more in this space. Like I think like what the community that's here is, I love it, and I'd love to nurture it in any way I can. And having people being able to put faces and stories to the voices behind who's talking, I think is phenomenal. And your story is great. So yeah, thank you very much.
Bless you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Cool. Okay. Well, we will talk to you later, and I'll see you in the chat.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Chelsea.
Bye.
All right. So that was Chelsea, and have PG on in one moment. I just need, well, you all probably know what I need. I need to take a bio break because it's been 2.5 hours. So a quick bio break, and we'll come back and we'll be talking to PG. And thank you very much to Maddie and to Chelsea so far. And we'll be right back. Mm-hmm. Um, hmm. I seem to have lost audio. Sorry. Having a slight issue here. Technical difficulties. If you can hear this, give me one moment. Okay. I'm assuming people can hear me right now, but I cannot hear myself, which is a little disturbing. And hard to know what is actually going out and what isn't. Yeah, the audio might be good, but I'm not hearing it. Which means I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear people who call in. Why is this happening right now? Hold on. One moment. I heard that. All right, PG, I don't think this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna bring you in. I cannot hear my own voice, so I don't know why I would be able to hear anyone's voice. I don't know I didn't change anything. This is very bizarre. PG, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. I just don't hear me. That's crazy. Okay, so hold on one second. I just want to see if I can. Actually, you know what? I don't need to hear me. I can hear you. I don't need to hear me, as long as I'm not overloading anything. Hold on one sec here. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm gonna wait. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna switch. Hold on here. Let me switch sides so that I'm more facing you. I'm doing pretty good. Still able to breathe for the time being.
Me too.
The world has not yet ended. Certainly, the last time we talked, it was sobering, right? It was
Right. Yeah.
I learned a lot, and afterwards went ahead and like looked up more stuff. And guess what? Didn't make me feel better.
No, it's. I know some of you are. You're very pessimistic after that last little conversation we had, and I do hope you carry that forward in the voting booth. I don't know if anyone in chat is in Georgia right now, but just do what you have to down there.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm certainly hoping that the sort of Republican idea that voting is rigged might actually work against them in that they won't bother turning out because they don't think their vote will matter because it's rigged. So I feel a little conflicted saying that, but I think in this case, I think that is how I actually feel. But I'm sorry, it sounded like I cut you off there.
So, I mean, I think that that's a legitimate fear for them as well, because as you're probably aware, they've advanced. First of all, they've cut back on drop-off boxes already. And they're also now, their state legislature is announcing essentially a crusade against mail-in voting on the basis that, it's vulnerable to fraud, which they haven't proven. But they're doing it anyway, and it's transparently about just trying to keep Purdue and Loeffler in power.
Yeah, and there are a couple of pieces of work. But just in case, so I'm sorry, because I know we've talked before, and a lot of the same people are here who were here last time, but there are maybe some people who don't know who you are or what you do. Could you reintroduce yourself to those people?
Yeah, so I'm PG, and I am not out of school yet, but what I focus on is DNA editing, and the main stuff I'm interested in editing is algae, specifically phytoplankton that live in our oceans, because I think that due to ocean acidification, which is a product of climate change, we're in a situation where a ton of them are dying off. And if we cannot engineer a strain of phytoplankton that is able to survive these new conditions, 40% of carbon sequestered annually all of a sudden isn't getting sequestered anymore. And that's going to drastically accelerate global warming, but also there's no way to reverse it at that point, just because you need stuff to sequester. And if you lose the algae, you very quickly reach climate conditions in which you're going to lose the trees as well. So algae that could persist in those worsening conditions might have a chance of still being there if we bungle this so badly that we aren't.
So this is what, and one of the things that I took from our last talk, right, which was I think human beings, like generally, tend to want to relate to things that they can naturally relate to, right? And in wanting to heal the planet, right, it fits in well with a sort of internal narrative if the way that is done is in line with the kind of anthropomorphic, or is there a drinking? There's a drinking game going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to incorporate chat.
So there is that sort of idea of wanting to be able to help, yes, but also wanting to be able to do it in a way that maybe feels good and is sort of maybe a little performative instead of actually the most effective way to actually help, right?
Right.
And so there is this sort of, we need more trees, right? There's got to be more trees. We got to reduce methane emissions. Go ahead.
And the real insidious thing about it is that none of that is bad. That's all good stuff. But the problem is it's treated as a cure-all that will just fix our situation entirely, and it won't. And that's used to, as we discussed before, just create complacency in people.
Right. It's performative. Right. It's like a here's the thing we're doing, and also look how pretty it is. Right. Like and look how pretty it is that we've reforested this area, and look at all these little baby trees that will someday be these huge, humongous trees. And it's hard to sell people on algae, right? Like that's a harder sell.
Right.
But from talking to you, and then from going and looking stuff up afterwards, it seems abundantly clear that like that's where the money is. Like that's what's going to actually make the difference. So I still don't understand, and it was such a big eye opener for me that I can't understand why there's not more attention being paid to it. But go ahead.
I've got some answers about that beyond what we discussed earlier. But first, I would say, really, my sort of aha moment was I read a report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture where they talked about essentially if we wanted to stop global warming by just increasing our consumption of carbon dioxide, how much arable land would we need to do that? Arable land being land that we can grow on. And I forget what the statistics are for
more than the planet
for trees and this other stuff. But at a certain point, I was going down and I saw 4%. I looked over and it said open air algae pools. And I looked below that and I saw a 0.3%. And next to that said closed loop algae systems. And at that point, I was just like, it's crazy that we have this much capacity to remove carbon from the atmosphere available to us, and just how much more efficient this is. And that instead of funding this, instead of doing this thing that we know will be able to remove carbon dioxide from the air, we know we'll be able to reduce levels, we're pursuing all this other research into carbon capture mechanisms that use electricity to directly take gases from the atmosphere and convert carbon dioxide into carbon and pull it out of the atmosphere like that, and then make plastics out of it. Like,
so who benefits from that though? Like, what is driving that? And when this mechanism exists already, right? This way to potentially, I don't know about like save the world or whatever, but this way to address the problem exists already. Why do you think there is? Do you think it's a matter of like money, right? Like people trying to?
Oh, absolutely. If biofuels from algae were cheaper than oil, we would be in an ice age. They would just immediately take over the market. And the problem is currently, it's not cheaper to generate a ton of algal biofuels than it is to just go and dig it up. Because if you think about it, all that oil is old diatoms that were algae before. And time and pressure and heat has done a lot of the work for you. And at that point, it's just so much cheaper to take that out of the ground and do all the processing steps to it that you would end up doing to an algal biofuel anyway. Right. And also, in addition to that, is that because there is the potential for algal biofuels to be profitable, none of the companies share research. So none of the companies share research, and that means that they can't build on each other's research. And also it means that if you wanted to get into the field of algal biofuels, your first couple good ideas about what you could do to algae to make it better
have already been done.
Right, by
tried.
3 other companies.
Yeah. There's no synergy. There's probably lots of redundant ideas and lots of things that seem like good ideas, and certainly the things that probably immediately present themselves as, oh, well, it's obvious we do this. But because companies don't share information, you don't get that knowledge that, oh, yeah, no, that was already tried, but this is why that doesn't work. And then you end up wasting time pursuing these dead ends, right? Because the companies are not working together. Similar
Right.
to the way the vaccines were developed, although I guess eventually they got there, but it seems like this would be one area where, and obviously, like we don't want it to be, I guess we don't want it to swing the other direction so that biofuels that can be gotten, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm obviously I'm just barely following here, right? We don't want it to be so that people are basically depleting resources to the point where we plunge into another ice age. And when we say things like, there's these non-renewable fossil fuels that, I mean, they're renewable because in millions of years more will be made eventually, slowly, right? Just not in any time frame that's going to help us. But I guess, are you suggesting then the solution is to find some kind of middle ground there where
So my comment about the ice age was a little bit facetious. If we created algae that was much better at surviving and reproducing than the algae we have now, we could slowly over time take the carbon dioxide we have and just create more and more oxygen, and that would decrease the temperature of the planet because carbon dioxide does not hold on to oxygen doesn't hold on to heat as well as carbon dioxide. It would take millions of years. The last oxygen extinction event was about 1 million years in the making before it finally managed to kill off all sorts of anoxic life. So one day,
is that what paved the way for the Cambrian explosion? Is that
it predated the Cambrian explosion.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say it exactly paved the way for it. Essentially what it was is, first of all, it was way before, because it was the development of photosynthetic bacteria.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're talking the
Right.
roots of life.
And so you have all this stuff that's evolved to live in an anoxic environment. And oxygen, we don't realize it because you breathe it, but if you've ever seen a blowtorch melting through something, it's an oxidizer. If you have an oxyacetylene blowtorch and you turn that on and you cut the hydrogen after you've started a cut and keep the oxygen going, you can continue that cut all the way through because you're just oxidizing things. So to life forms that had never experienced it before, it just killed them. It just poisoned the entire planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I
And
ask, it was KFU, was it? Who was it? Someone said I look suspiciously like their cousin. NFUK.
that is
one.
Elliot.
Elliot. What's your cousin's first name? Q, I subscribe to your account, by the way.
Oh, and by the way, I just want to say, like, I don't think I'm going to be taking any other calls tonight. So if you have sent in emails, they're valid for next week. But because we're coming up on 3 hours, I don't think I'm going to be able to take more calls, which begs the question. I don't know how I'm going to do like a marathon of Cyberpunk. I may be thinking that I have more stamina than I do. He says, Aaron.
No.
Oh, so you're not his cousin?
Not even close. No, not even a little bit.
What was there some question there that you might be his cousin?
Yeah, he just said I look suspiciously like his cousin, and I was like, might as well confirm that.
Yeah, just make it absolutely sure, because you never know. The world's a small place. Elliot, we'll get to you.
Pavi, which one was correct there?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
The glassware that I promised.
Sure. Let's see. I don't know what glassware you're talking about.
All right. Well, so basically, the argument was made that you can't brew tea too strong, and I know for a fact that you can if you have the proper equipment. So let's start with our little boy here. This is called a heating mantle.
Oh
and
my!
What it does is you've got
This is nothing
Temperature
illegal,
controls.
right?
Not here.
Okay.
You got temperature controls here, and you've got a temperature probe up here that is connected in, and whatever temperature you set it to, it will heat until the temperature at that probe occurs. Okay. Kind of got to do this bit by bit, just because it's like 4 feet tall if it's actually put together. So you have the round bottom flask that everything is occurring in, and it's got a little stir bar in the bottom there. It'll spin around when it's actually going to ensure even heating of the liquid, and that's to prevent flash boiling, which, if you know what that is, it just ruins your whole day. Now, why do we need to boil the liquid in here? Well, because it's got to go out the top here, and it's got to go into a piece of equipment called a sock slit extractor. Now, this thing looks incredibly confusing. So what is the path?
Guys, what the hell's going on here? I don't know.
So the evaporated liquid comes up through here, and then it comes up to this pipe, and it goes into here, and it goes up here. At that point, it goes into a condenser, where it condenses and falls back down.
Wouldn't it condense in one of those side tubes?
No, because the side tubes end up being exactly as hot as the solvent itself.
Okay.
So this whole thing is impossible to touch while it's running.
Ah, gotcha.
So at this little, let me pull that in front of me so you can see it. The little glass tip you can see in there.
Yeah, I'm giving you the whole. You've got the whole screen right now, so you.
Okay. That's where it's going to drop down from, and what it's going to drop down onto is a little packet like this that has been inserted into here, and it's going to cover that entirely in incredibly hot, fresh solvent. And this is going to fill until it gets to here. At that point, this tube here comes into play. The liquid will have filled the tube up to the bend, and once it goes over the bend, as you can see, the tube has two sides to it, or maybe you can't, very hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I do see it. Yeah.
Okay, that's a better shot for you.
There you go.
Right
yeah.
there.
You can...
Okay, so this tube right here, it's going to come down through there, and it's going to go in through the wall here.
And then back up?
It's going to drain back down here into the bottom flask down here.
And then start all over again. Start its journey all over.
Evaporates and goes all over again. So why is this really, 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 really good at making strong tea? Well, as many of you know, in terms of solubility, you have a maximum solubility within a liquid. And the closer you get to that maximum solubility, the harder it is to dissolve what you're looking to dissolve. And you can get around that by raising the temperature of the solute. And so a hotter solvent can dissolve more solute. So this contraption repeatedly on its own, can be left on for like 12 hours, just does hot solvent extractions over and over and over again. And if I can get this out of here, I can show you the result of that. It essentially strips everything and anything out of whatever you've put into the little setup there. Come on. There we are.
And what are you putting into the setup again, PG?
For legal reasons, let's go with oregano. That used to be brilliant white-green, and now it is entirely white because there is nothing left in there but just cellulose and non-dissolvable stuff.
Oh, wait. Hold that thing up again.
This is your end result here. This
that
is
looks
actually an
very
incredibly dark red liquid.
Yeah, very dark. Whatever it is looks potent.
Right. So in this one, it's a sleep aid medication is the end result, and some more processing was done to it after the initial extraction.
And how do you ingest that sleep aid?
You saw me. You saw me drinking that thing earlier, right?
That's how you just.
Just like that.
Well, oregano seems like a weird thing to use as a sleep aid, but I'm gonna take your word on it because of your chemistry background. This is. I feel like I've got. You're like a non or not yet. You have yet to break bad, but it might be somewhere in your future. You might. If it looks like the world's going to end at that point, might as well, right?
I'm hoping that the specific product I'm well known for will very, very shortly be incredibly legal in my area, as
Sorry,
both components of it are already legal.
When you say well known for, but you mean by your friends, by your local
Yeah, just
tea
by
drinking
my
community?
yeah. It's very, very good for parties.
Yeah, I would imagine. How long does it take?
12
To
hours
actually-
start to
Oh,
finish.
12 hours. Oh, you did mention that, I think. Yeah.
So this stuff, the preparation of it, first the organic material needs to be mixed with an abrasive and ground at a ball mill. Then it needs to be transferred to a desiccation and heating setup that will convert some of the molecules into the molecules that they need to be for it to function in a liquid form.
So you wouldn't. This is not like a recommended for a home project generally.
I mean, I'm not I'm not at work right now. It's if you want to. It cost about $1,300 altogether for all the glassware and stuff you're going to need. And so,
But the market is there for you to recoup that investment, probably.
certainly is. Though I would never take advantage of it, Your Honor.
No, it's well. I mean, you're helping people by it's essentially like just like strong chamomile is essentially like really right what we're talking about here, something like that.
It's twice as powerful as lorazepam. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just like strong chamomile.
Yeah, I might want to get your home phone number if I can.
So I will, if you email me an address. Actually, don't we both live in New England, don't we?
Oh no, I live in DC.
Really?
Not that far from New England.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I used to live in Baltimore, but I live in DC.
I'll assuredly be down there for the riots in about 20 days or so.
Once the stuff hits the fan, then I think everybody's gonna wanna. Yeah, here we got colorful drink. Yep, Heisenberg 2.0.
Oh man, I gotta say, it's guys, it is way more difficult than I would have assumed to keep up with chat and also talk at the same time. So
It is right. Thank you for. I'm guessing that you're saying that for my benefit, because it is hard. There's like a lag too.
If I had a way to like have them scrolling up on the screen in front of me, so I could just like read them as they cross my field of vision, I feel like that would work. But I don't know how I would even begin to do that.
It's kind of like that, but yeah, ideally it would be like something that's projected on the back side of my glasses, so I get it like a heads up display. That would be the best way.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. What I have to do is like look over like this and then look back like that, and yeah. So it's not quite as easy as it's probably easier for me to follow than it is for you, but especially maybe in the state that you're in right now. I'm not making any assumptions about your state, but but this has certainly been educational.
Pavi, you can buy it by talking to glassware representatives at companies that make glassware and convincing them you're very trustworthy.
Are you talking about like Carolina Biological? So what was it? What's that? There's a major. Are you familiar with Carolina Biological Supply? PG?
No, but also I don't want to say their name on stream.
Oh, gotcha.
In case they get pissed at me.
Hold on.
Although you may have caught. Actually, no. My webcam's too terrible for you to have read anything on that glassware.
Yeah, where I'm looking at is is Carolina Biological Supply, and they do have a lot of lab supplies and equipment. It's where I've gotten a bunch of the stuff that I've used for show.
Look up a Soxhole extractor on there.
Say that word. Actually, could you spell that for me?
So yeah, it's Sox, SOX. Let me make sure I've actually spelled it right here. Okay, so SOX, SOX, and then H, and then LET, LET.
Extractor?
Extractor.
A Soxhole extractor.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to look it up now or later?
Well, I wanted you to have fun with some of the price tags on there.
Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah, let's see. What does a Soxhole extractor run at Carolina Biological Supply? Oh, they don't seem to have it. Perhaps they're not as...
Really?
Oh, yeah, we're looking at $600, $700. Does that sound about right? For that, that's essentially what that is. Yeah. That's a $700 piece of glass. Well, hell, I mean, a lens is just a piece of glass, right? And there are certainly lenses that cost that much more. Oh, Maddie is going to sleep. Good night, Maddie. Thank you very much for talking and have a pleasant evening.
Good night, Maddie. I want you to know that having to follow that made me deeply nervous.
You don't seem nervous, though.
For very, very particular reasons.
Yeah. I want to be sure here that I'm... Oops.
Guys, it's not the vaccine.
Butterfly Composer, I promise you, if you are around next week, you will be first in line, if you desire. Is there anything else you'd like to share, PG?
Apparently someone wants to know what the heating element is called. I assume they're referring to this.
Wouldn't that just be like the mantle?
Yeah. So it's called a heating mantle, and it has to be a mantle specifically because it needs to be able to evenly apply heat to a round bottom flask.
So you can't just use a Bunsen burner for this?
You could. The problem with that would be controlling temperature. And if you get evaporation going faster than it should be, it can cause problems in like knocking what you're working with out of either its thimble funnel or the filter paper you have it in. And at that point, on the next extraction, a bunch of stuff that isn't ready gets pulled down with it. And it gets pulled down into a super saturated solution. So at that point, you have a bunch of stuff down there that has material on it that needs to be extracted, that doesn't get extracted. And then you just have to unhook everything and filter and then get everything back in. And it's just a whole thing. And this also heats quite a bit faster just because it fully encircles it and applies heat in an even manner.
PG, when you watched Breaking Bad, assuming that you did you?
No.
You've never seen Breaking Bad?
Everyone tells me. Everyone's like, it's really good. I was at my uncle's house, and I saw like 5 minutes of it in like the second season or something. And the problem is, I think the disconnect there is that what I'm doing isn't hurting anyone.
I'm not.
Meth is bad.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about, like, I would just be curious if you were watching it, if you would be like calling out, or if you'd be put off by, like, say, any inaccuracies. One of the things about the character Walter White is he's a stickler for process and making sure that everything is done right. And they talk a lot about things like, I forget some of the names, but retractor flasks or some kind of, it was also a very large round bottom flask. And I remember him going on about it for quite a long time for why it had to be this particular flask. And I would be curious if you would get kind of lost in that stuff, or be like, yeah, that's not right, or, oh, this is accurate, or, but you haven't seen it, so I don't want to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the differences there is that in an extraction, what you are looking for is already there. Whereas what he's doing is a series of chemical reactions. And making meth is not that complicated. Making good meth is very complicated, because someone is essentially doing everything they can to increase their percentage yield at the end, and get rid of side reactions.
Right.
Which means that you need to ensure that you're starting with the purest precursors, because anything in there that could potentially get in could be involved in side reactions that would produce impurities.
Like, say, chili powder.
I mean, depending on what you're doing.
That was one of the early points of contention between Pinkman and Walter White, was Pinkman liked to put a little bit of chili powder in his meth to give it a little kick. And Walter White was disgusted by that and couldn't believe that it didn't, I guess he couldn't believe that it actually worked at all, much less that you would introduce a contaminant like that.
Well, there's also, so for a lot of drugs, a lot of negative side effects come from side reactants. And I think it's cocaine, I think it is, where if you are able to get pure medical grade cocaine, the experience is just so drastically different. Allegedly, there are no after effects. You don't suffer any problems with it in terms of, and not saying there's no health effects, but it's just like you don't get that sort of after stimulant bad feeling that you would get.
And this was why Freud, I'm sure, was so fond of it. I think a similar thing applies to even to opiates as well. And it's the adulterants, or, say, for instance, the introduction of like acetaminophen to prevent people from abusing, or trying to cold filter it so that they can extract just the oxycodone, or the the actual ingredient that they want to be able to get to it. So these things also cause other problems. And
it's just I haven't seen the show, but it would be hard for them to actually get the science wrong on that, because it's incredibly well known, and it's just, and there's so many ways to go about it. If he does something different than somebody else and they're still both ending up with meth, it's not, there's just so much variation in process in terms of precursors used, catalysts used, all this other stuff. I don't think I would have had any problems with this. I'm very good at being able to just kind of turn my brain off, and then afterwards just be like, well, some of that didn't really make sense, but I had fun.
PG, I truly appreciate the strictly theoretical and tea-based science lesson.
This is it's all in Minecraft, okay?
Yeah, everything is theory. Everything is just we're just chatting about possible things that might possibly happen, not anything that we're intending to do or are doing, right? Yeah, a little bit lower. All right, PJ, I'm gonna sign off unless there's something you want to ask or talk to anyone in chat.
No, I mean, shoot me that email and we'll definitely not figure something out.
I might, yeah, I might. No one will ever know if I do. But yeah, I appreciate the offer, and we'll talk again for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we can set up like an actual queue, because it feels like, or like a raffle wheel. That'd be fun.
Well, this all started with this raffle wheel where I would put people's names on it, and then this is how I would arrive at who. Are you talking about like as far as like talking to people?
Yeah, as far as talking to people, like
Yeah,
I'm always happy to fill airtime when no one else is available. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna probably reintroduce the wheel as a more sort of, I guess, fair way of doing this, because as it is, I just go through the emails I get, and I try to skip repeats until basically like feel like we've hit everyone new, and then can go back to the repeats. Obviously, you're a repeat.
right. So how does it, when someone follows the link, what are you seeing on your end?
I see a window that says green room at the top, and then I will see the person calling, and it'll just stack them, and then I just have the ability to add you to the feed alone, or to the right, or to the left. I can make you go solo. I can take you away, obviously. There's a couple of features in here where I can actually add you. There's some exploration I need to do as far as like what all I can do to get like maybe like a more Zoom style video chat going. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, well, it's also like from my end, the green room is weird. It's like first of all, you're not in it with anybody else. And there's also like,
What do you see?
you see like a precursor green room, and then there's the actual green room. And so you end up in the actual green room for a bit, and then you just get added to the call.
Are there snacks?
So I don't know. Yeah.
There's no snacks in the green room.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of stumbled upon this feature. I was gonna there was an API that interfaced between Ecamm and Skype, but that was kind of a pain in the butt. And then one day they just released the new version of Ecamm that had this interview feature, and I've been using it ever since, and it seems to be pretty good. So I'm happy with it. But yeah, I do want to explore it and explore other ways.
My headphones went down for a sec there.
What's that?
Did you mention Zoom in that batch of things you checked out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've checked out a whole bunch of different alternatives, but for me, it's really kind of about ease of use. So yeah, and this is because it's all just one piece of software. I don't have to worry about, I don't know what happened with my voice here. I'm going to have to investigate this post stream, but that's not really interesting stuff to talk about. But yeah, so I appreciate you.
It seems to be working. I also know, like, if someone clicks the link, do you have these things like going off and being annoying, or are they just kind of sitting there?
It shows up and it says like a call, and then I can accept the call or decline the call. If I accept the call, then I can see you, and I can see, what your camera looks like, and I can see a visual of your audio level, although I can't hear you until I actually add you to the feed. And then it just stacks them as more and more people come in. So I can only do, like, if like 5 people are calling in, I can really only bring in about 2 or 3 into the green room, and then bring them into the stream. So that's why sometimes I think if people call, they're left calling for a little while if there are several people calling at the same time, because I'd like to be able to see everybody when I add them. Yeah, before adding them, actually. Yeah. But yeah, that's the way that it is now. Okay, so I'm gonna.
What do you think, Cyberpunk stream?
Oh, I'm gonna be. I'm gonna do it. I'm definitely doing it. We're at. Let's see. What are we at now?
10:42 here.
1 hour and 17 minutes and 30 seconds. before I can have access to it. And I'm probably just going to play around with it a little bit tonight, play with character creation, but then start streaming in full stream mode Friday, I think, maybe Thursday night. But we'll see. As much as I can, as I can handle. I'm not as young as I used to be. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna say goodnight. But thank you again very much, PG, and we'll definitely talk again if you're up for it. And like we said, may or may not send you something to get some information on something.
Okie dokie then.
Yeah. Take care of yourself and stay safe, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye. Oh, look, see, now it's showing. This is, I actually think, like a bug. Okay, there, I can get my whole screen back by turning interview off. Whew, okay, that was really informative. I still can't hear my voice. There were a few other things I wanted to get to, but I'd rather probably just save them. The only thing I wanted to bring up, I guess, although I don't have time to go into it the way that I'd like to, and I probably will bring it up more in detail in the next stream, is I read a lot of sci-fi and horror when I was a kid. And sometimes people will like ask me like what my favorite book was from that time, and what I might recommend. And the strange thing is, my recollection is one of my favorite books that I ever read from that period of my life is this book right here. It's called Fear. The book is called Fear. And the author, that's right, the author is L. Ron Hubbard, which, he wrote the Starship Earth. Wait, I think it was Starship or Spaceship Earth. Decology, and I think I just figured out why I wasn't getting audio, and now it is back. Wonderful. But he wrote a lot of sci-fi prior to fleecing the world with Scientology. But Fear is actually a horror novel, and has, in my recollection, had one of the, I think what it does now, it's one of those things that like on rereading might not hold up based on like the things that we've all been collectively experienced as a culture in the last 20 years. But reading this in the 90s was one of the scariest things that I had read. It's about a guy who loses, and this will probably sound familiar to you now. Yes, Battlefield Earth, but he also wrote a decology, 10 books, a 10-book decology that I remember reading, 10 long books. That was Something Else Earth, I think. Ron Hubbard, decology, Mission Earth. That was Mission Earth. Slightly different than. Oh, good night, Pavi. I'm about to sign off as well. But yeah, so this book is about a guy who loses 4 hours of his life, and he doesn't know what happened during those 4 hours. So that probably sounds like kind of familiar to people, right? Like where it's like, oh, I lost this section of time. And the book chronicles his sort of quest to find out what happened during those 4 hours. And I just remember, and like saying it now, it sounds silly, but I remember Butterfly Composer, good night. And like I said, if you are around for next week, you are first in line, if you want to be. So I just remember like this line from the book where it's basically he's trying to find out what happened to his 4 hours. He has a dream where he runs into an old friend of his, and his friend tells him, I can't help you find your 4 hours. Or I'm sorry, he also lost his hat. And the guy is basically like, I can't help you find your hat, because if you find your hat, you'll find your 4 hours. If you find your 4 hours, you're going to die, right? So that's early on in the book that it kind of sets that up. And I remember it had me riveted the whole time, and the fact that L. Ron Hubbard wrote it. And I enjoyed Mission Earth, all 10 books of it, and I enjoyed Battlefield Earth, the book. The guy was he kind of cranked out what people thought was pulp, but I enjoyed it as, a young person at the time. Oh, okay. Well, we'll find a way. There'll have to be whatever way we can interface, we will. If I brought you on now, it would not be fair to you or to me, because I'm tired, and I just don't think I'd be a very good host. But anyway, yeah. I guess my point is just that, L. Ron Hubbard created Scientology, also wrote some pretty decent sci-fi and horror. In fact, I think like Stephen King had a whole bunch of praise for him that he probably regrets writing, but in the foreword to this, I think Stephen King says it's one of the most frightening books. Oh yeah, Stephen King. L. Ron Hubbard's Fear is one of the few books in the chiller genre which actually merits employment of the overworked adjective classic, as in, this is a classic tale of creeping, surreal menace and horror. If you're not averse to a case of the cold chills, a rather bad one, and you've never read Fear, I urge you to do so. Don't even wait for a dark and stormy night. This is one of the really, really good ones. I wonder when that was written, when that blurb was written, and if he would write it now, or, in the past 15 or 20 years, knowing what he knows now. Probably not, right? But anyway, I still think it's a good book. And I also still think this is a great wallet. Oh my gosh. Yes, you're right. I did forget this. I am very, very sorry. But I will have time for it, actually, because I'll have time off. So that will be what happens then. That's all I got, man. I'm at the end. I'm actually glad. Like, I have all this stuff I wanted to get to. I got some silicone ears that I'm going to do some weird stuff with. I have the... Oh, yeah. Whoops. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. I just broke it. Anyway, I wanted to do all of this stuff. Oh yeah, look at that. I just broke this thing. I'm sure I can fix it. Can we get it to focus on that? Focus on the hand. Ew. Oh my God. Should stink. Oh my God. That's... Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw that out. But yeah, I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get to. But I'm glad that I didn't get to it, because that it was talking to all of you and meeting new people and learning new ways to brew tea. And, thank you very much, Maddie and Chelsea and PG. It was great meeting Maddie and Chelsea, and of course, it was great talking to PG, who seemed more chipper this week than he did last week. No, I'm not going to lick them. The joke is, and I know it's a stupid joke. The joke is make a video where I talk your ears off and essentially have these. I'm going to have to modify them a bit and kind of have them come off with like sinewy bits coming from them to here, but also actually have a binaural microphone in here. So I'm actually holding these grotesque ears and whispering into them, but I won't be licking them because that is, it's not my thing. But anyway, I hope to see you all, or some of you at some point during the Cyberpunk streams that will be coming soon and will be lasting a long time. My guess, I can't give you a schedule, right? Like on Friday, it's probably going to be like when I wake up, I'll do it for a few hours and then I'll need a break. Thank you very much, Becca. I know it's a stupid joke. That's what, and I was going to do the same thing with the OnlyFans video, where I just did an OnlyFans video that it was just the sound of fans. But as I was editing that video, somebody else did that idea. Too grotesque? No such thing. Yeah, no, thank you, Chelsea. That was great. I got to work on my. Ever since seeing Knives Out, I need a good sweater. And I hope so, Butterfly. Okay, won't stop letting me hit stuff. Well, but you don't have to watch the ear video. What is Elliot? No, it was a joke. I was going to put out a video that was titled OnlyFans ASMR, and it was going to be literally just fans, different fans, fans, like spinning fans, the sound of fans. But like I said, literally as I was doing that, somebody else, another ASMR artist, did that exact same thing. So I aborted it, and that wasn't such a great joke. Either talking your ear off, probably not such a great joke, and I would have to ruin these ears to do it. But if I don't do that, then I'll at least use these as decent proxies instead of needing to buy a 3DO. Because these are silicone. They feel great. Actually sound pretty good. What is Olevi? Mercari app. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, but Chelsea, I don't go out much, especially now. Like I'm not comfortable going into stores, even with a mask on, for something like that. Like for essentials, I'll do it because I have to. But I wouldn't be comfortable. I wouldn't be able to take my time doing it. Wouldn't be able to do it, I think. I'm not even going to address what Becca just said. They are bigger. They're meant for practicing acupuncture. So they're, I think, 50% bigger than an actual ear. But no, it's not like a fleshlight or something like that. Anyway, this was a success. I loved this. I hope you all have a great night. And I'll see you probably tomorrow, or some of you over the next couple of days, because I'm going to be. I feel like I'm going to log like 20 or 30 hours in that game over the next couple of days. And what I acknowledged the comment. I totally acknowledged it. I'm just not going to say it. All right. I'm tired. Life is difficult. I wanted to talk about Camus and the difference between absurdism and existentialism, and I can't do that. I'm going to have to do that another night. I'm going to. Like on Friday, I will probably be doing it starting like around noon Eastern Standard Time, so much earlier. Yeah. Oh, gosh. I just recently did this with my work. Yeah. So, yes, everybody have a wonderful night, and I will see you all soon. And thank you again. Thank you to the community. You're all great, and I'm super lucky. And I don't forget it, and I value every one of you. Yeah. Have a good evening, and we'll talk soon. Night.